How do you view this season kind of as a whole for you personally?
I view it as I would say, a great experience. A lot of learning, listen.
Where do you feel like you grew and where do you feel like you kind of need to improve?
I think I grew, not basketball related, just as a person. Just being the person I am when I'm not playing basketball, around all my teammates, my coaches. And I'll say improvement wise, just coming back next year, uh, perfecting all the small things that I tried to do this year to just get better at every little details that I did this year and most of the stuff that I went through this year to just get better at it.
You're extension eligible this summer. How do you view those conversations and your future here?
Oh wow, I didn't even think of that. That's just something that I think my agent gonna be working on it. Right now, I'm just gonna focus on my mental, my body, and everything will handle itself.
I was also going to ask about that extension eligibility, but how much of a priority is it for you to stay with this organization in the long term?
I love it here. Love it here. Like I said, I love it here, and the rest of the things gonna handle itself. So.
What was the biggest challenge in that personal growth that you talked about?
It was more about communication. And communication I think, is the key to everything. No matter how that communication come out, but there is definitely got to be a better communication. I think that was the biggest growth. And I just spoke to Steve not too long ago. We had a couple good communication this year, and he told me that's the most thing he was proud of me beside basketball. Like, that was the biggest thing that he was really proud of me about, just being able to communicate with him and communicate with my teammate better and the staff.
Hey, Andrew. Last night, in your eyes, what went wrong in that game?
They came out, as the aggressors. They were all over us. Played harder. They deserved to win that game.
Have you allowed yourself to process the roster potentially being shaken up this offseason?
Yeah, you never know. You never know what could happen. Who's going to be here, who won't. You never know. That's the NBA. All you can do is, take care of what you can take care of, what you can control.
How would you best describe your individual season and your guys' season as a whole?
My season was not too good, not great. I feel like I started picking it up the second half of the season, but the first half wasn't too good. Team-wise, I feel like we were really good the second half of the season. We were figuring stuff out. But it's unfortunate that it, had to end this way.
What maybe changed or flipped in that second half, and what can maybe you take into the start of next season as well?
I feel like our defense started clicking. I feel like we can always score with anybody, but that defensive side, being connected, and and even having the full squad together.
You guys went 22-32 against winning teams this year. I think you only had 4 wins against the 6 teams in the Western Conference playoffs. What do you think were the biggest differences between you guys and some of the top teams in the league?
I would say just, it all starts on the defensive side, being the aggressors and being connected defensively, which I think we did the second half, of the season. We got to stay consistent with it. That's it. I feel like once we settled in and figured out what we needed to figure out, everything was a lot better.
And you're someone who has I guess you've been in trade rumors before.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that could happen again this summer. How do you compartmentalize something like that? How do you manage it?
I mean, I take care of what I can take care of. When it's out of my control, I don't worry about it. All I can do is work hard, train hard, and do what I can do.
Where'd you maybe see Jonathan Kuminga take a leap this season, and what do you think maybe could be next for him next season?
You said, when did I?
No, just like how did you see him take a leap, like the biggest leap for him?
Oh yeah, he took a big leap. JK, he's very talented. Very competitive, and hell of an athlete. Not a lot of people more athletic than JK. And the sky's the limit for him. His potential is out the roof. What was it, like 21, 22? 21. Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. He's going to keep getting better and better and better, and All-Star season is coming soon for him for sure.
You've been kind of in that shoes where you've been obviously a high lottery pick, super athletic young guy like that. What makes somebody go into kind of the consistency mode for Jonathan Kuminga?
Just staying with the process. Just believing in yourself and staying aggressive. And I think those are things that he has no problem doing. So I think he's gonna be so special.
As this season comes to an end, how can you reflect on your rookie season, and how did it live up to your expectations?
I thought overall I had a pretty solid rookie season. Obviously, there's always room for growth, but just kind of just going through the ups and downs, embracing the struggle, embracing the success, not getting too high or too low, but just trying to stay even.
What surprised you about the NBA, or I guess your play within it, and what do you think you kind of need to get better at?
Wait, can you repeat it?
Let's start with what surprised you.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously the NBA is the best players in the world, and they're really, really good. But I think what surprised me the most is just the smallest margin of what a superstar is to another player. And it's just the margin for everyone in that league is so small. Like, obviously you have the top 20 players, but then after that, the margin is just relatively even, and it's basically who plays harder.
Where do you think you need to, what you're heading towards the offseason, where you're I need to get better at that?
Mm-hmm. I just think that obviously my body, coming in last year, I got hurt. I didn't really get a full summer, so I'm really honing in on this summer on working on my body, working on getting stronger upper body, lower body, and then just doing whatever the coaches need me to do. We just had a discussion up there, so just honing in on some of the parts of my game, being more offensive-minded, defensively, still bringing pressure, being able to switch, guards, and stuff of that nature, and I think that all just comes with reps.
What is the offseason going to look like for you as far as where you're going, working out, et cetera?
I'll be here for most of the offseason. I'll be here, and they have a great plan for me, and probably going to start up here in about 2 or 3 weeks. So,
do you expect to be in summer league?
Yeah, definitely going to play in summer league, and the stuff that I work on in the off season, translate it to there.
Trayce, what did Klay Thompson mean to you this season?
Klay was great. He gave me my first nickname on the team, Baby T. I graduated to Trayce Jr., but he was a great teammate. I feel like me and him had a really good chemistry going throughout the year, and I love being his teammate. I love being able to play with him.
You mentioned switching on the guards. I mean, how vital do you view that for kind of your future defensive versatility?
I think it's huge for me. Obviously, being able to play small ball 5, but being able to switch on the guards, especially in late shot clock situations, using my length, altering shots, all of that stuff.
How close do you think you are to feeling confident in those type of settings?
I feel like even from the beginning of the year to now, I've definitely grown in confidence. I'm just being put in position. Coach trusting me to guard some of these guards and not always relying and playing roamer a little bit more than guarding just the big. And so I just feel like it's going to continue to grow with repetition. But obviously, I think I'm starting to get more confident.
Are
you good?
Plan of being more offensively minded that you mentioned. How much of that, if any of it, involves extending out with the jumper, maybe first to the mid range, then maybe out to the corners?
Yeah, when we actually talked, Coach mentioned Sabonis' name, and I think just the force that he plays with, and he feels like with the dribble handoffs and stuff of that nature, and he might attempt 1-3 a game, but that's not necessarily who he is as a player. But it's definitely something that I want to expand on. The free throws, I go in and practice and knock them down, so I have to translate that over as well. And so I think the free throws and then being able to catch and shoot 3, I think that's something that I also need to expand on.
What about the matchup last night with Sabonis was difficult?
I think that just obviously their game plan. They played really physical, really physical. They grabbed, they held, and Coach said that's what playoff basketball is. And so just being able to get a taste of that. Obviously, we didn't want that outcome to come last night, but they played really well, and hats off to them. But yeah, just being able to get some of that experience.
Gary, how's the calf? What's your overall health out right now?
Probably gonna take a couple more weeks to get it back right, but I'm all right.
Is it just more about resting, or kind of anything procedure-wise gonna have to happen?
No, I just rest and rehab.
Between the calf and the other calf and the hamstring,
Yeah, I mean-
getting sick a few times, just how frustrating was it this year not being available as much as
Yeah.
you'd like?
It was a rocky season. It's been that way for the last 2 seasons. It's just go back to the drawing board, this summer. Tighten it, tune it a little bit tighter, and just kind of more bulletproof, my body. Take some different routes and, just try to get it stronger, better, last longer.
What does going back to the drawing board entail?
Just going back to the board, probably a little earlier, get into things, take care of my body, try some different things for my body and see if, it works out and if it holds up.
Gary, what was going through your head last night as you had to watch some of that?
Just at least 7 minutes. I just wanted 7 minutes, 10 minutes, dog. Just at least just get out there in some way. But, yeah, it was frustrating just to sit there and watch. Helplessness, can't do anything. But just give me motivation and, just drive this to take care of my body better this summer and come back and, just be available for 82 next year.
Have you allowed yourself to process potentially the roster being different next year and key players not being here?
I don't really think about it. Organization guys are going to do what they do and make sure, they put together the best team possible. So just be ready, adaptable, and just, when training camp gets here with the guys we got, just ready to go.
You see yourself being a key part of the team next year? And
I hope so. I would love to come back and, and run it back and better yet, just redo my whole deal and, stay here for a little bit longer. So we'll figure it out.
Gary, give us your take on the game last night. It's kind of hard to break it down, but did you guys seem ready? Were you just facing a team that was super hot, or what happened?
It was just one of those nights. It was just a bad night to have one of those nights. Playing, win or go home. Instant game 7. So, they just came out hot, and it is what it is. It was just one of those days.
What was the mood like after the game and on the ride back and so forth?
Of course, it's frustrating and just, unfortunate. But go back to the drawing board this summer. Like you said, figure out the roster and do that and come out gun blazing, have a better start.
At the end of the game, saw Klay kind of turn, look at the crowd. You gave him a couple pats on the chest there. Did you have any message for him after the game, or was it more kind of an unspoken love kind of thing?
No, I just, it's a tough one. Like I said, it's just one of those days. We all can't have great days every day, so it was just one of those days. Klay's Klay. Think he's just soaking it in. That feeling. Don't want to probably go through that again. So come back next year and make sure we don't have to go through that.
Team-wide, kind of second straight season where definitely a handful of highs and lows, a little bit of a roller coaster. Where do you think you guys can kind of find the consistency to just stay kind of even keel and keep climbing up next season?
Just come back locked in, like I said. Come back more in tune, more locked in, healthy, and just come back ready to get back to what we was doing, playing Warriors basketball. Come out with a defensive mindset early, and just continue to be consistent throughout the season. We had some ups and downs, but just try to limit those ups and downs and kind of have more, consistent runs.
Given that you're talking about hopefully playing a big part in next year's team and maybe even getting a new deal for longer term, get the sense that there's no doubt that you're going to pick up that player option for next year. Is that right?
Yeah, we're going to figure it out. If we can redo it and then get it done, that would be great. But right now, this moment, take some time and, let this ease out. But definitely, for sure, figure it out, for sure. You guys are great. Have a great summer, guys.
How frustrating was this season for you from a just role fluctuation standpoint?
Frustrating wouldn't be the word I'd use to describe it. It's a journey, just like any other journey. Gonna be highs and lows, gonna be adversity. So, just perspective, dealing with everything.
Do you feel like you kind of know what your role is with this team and into the future, or is this something you kind of need to figure out this summer still, like where you fit in on this team?
Figuring out what it is in the future, what it's been. Yeah, that's something that's still gotta figure out. Yeah.
How much would you? I mean, not necessarily I'll guarantee a roster spot or anything like that, or a rotation spot, but I mean, how much do you view your fourth season needing to be somewhere where you are playing on a nightly basis?
Just with this being such a competitive and difficult job, you can't really predict the future. You can't be promised too much in this game. So just giving yourself the best chance would be the best route to go.
Moses, could you talk about what playing with Klay and watching Klay has meant to you or done for you? Thanks.
Yeah, it's been Klay, somebody I've been watching since I was a kid, since I was young. So then to be able to grow up watching him and then be in the locker room with him, chilling on the boat with him, he's a really, really solid dude. And you can learn a lot from somebody like that.
Moses, what obviously
last night was disappointing in a team context. How much do you feel like? I mean, you seemed very ready for the moment. You know, it was a big game, and as you've shown before, you were ready for it. But how much did you how important is it that was sort of the parting image, and that you sort of reminded the team, the fans, whatever, that you're ready to sort of contribute at that level?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the storyline all year, you know, not knowing how much playing time I'm gonna get. Like, I wasn't in the rotation going into the game. Yeah, I get called on and perform. So I mean, it's just more of the same, kind of. You know, glad to be able to do it on that stage at that time. But yeah, it's just been part of the journey so far.
In your conversations with the coaches today and in general, what was kind of the message that they had for you in terms of what you need to improve this summer and what you need to improve to get that, you know, consistent role?
You know, becoming like getting the shot off faster was something that was said. You know, really, a lot of it is situational, I feel like. So just being able to get that consistent time, having a defined role and knowing what that is and understanding that will, I think, be the biggest part.
How good do you feel about your game overall, though, exiting year 3?
Yeah, I feel really good about it. You know, if I get to listening to other people, then you can kind of feel like it's a cycle to where, like, oh, you don't play, you play good, you don't play, and but that's kind of that can be frustrating if you looking at it like that. But that's through other people's lens. I've done something myself to where I don't really look at things through other people's perspective and understand it for myself and see the growth that I've made each year. You know, I've spent a lot of time in the G League my first year, and not a lot of time on the court. Stretches of not playing well. The next year, I went to the G twice. Had some really good stretches early on and later on. Although, like, in the middle, I kind of let the situation stifle me to a point to where I wasn't as confident in what I had going on, but it was still. I was able to figure out and get through it, so that was a good year. But then this year, I feel like I was solid all the way through. You know, the situation was what it was at times with things I can't control, but whenever I got the opportunity to play, I feel like I played well. I figured some things out throughout the season that made me better and more consistent later on. But mentally, I feel like this is the best that I've been so far, and physically on the court. You know, I've scored more percentages or whatever. Been solid, so just realizing that for myself and realizing that has been progress, and not listening to everybody else and thinking that I'm running on the treadmill.
How would you describe your experience with Chris Paul, maybe compared to your preseason expectations of being teammates with him?
Yeah, Chris is another guy that I've been watching longer than I've been watching Klay. You know, playing on the video game with him, and you always hear so many good things about Chris Paul and the person that he is and the teammate that he is from other people, but it's different when you get the opportunity to experience it for yourself. When it comes to teaching you the game, talking about the game, he always want to talk about basketball, but not even just that. You know, he was on the boat too, just kicking it, talking about whatever. The stuff he's got going on with his own foundation and his business ventures. He's got so much things going on that I could learn from, and he's never slow to reach out and teach. So, you know, he had the thing where he was talking about me, being able to deal with adversity or whatever it was. But I think that's just a case of real recognize real. You know, I feel like not all celebrities, not all Hall of Famers could deal with having a lesser role. I feel like if Chris Paul was in my situation, he would be able to deal with it too, and that's not something you could say about every Hall of Famer. Just the mental that he has, he has to take a lesser role this year for this team too. You know, that's had to be challenging on. It had to be tough on him. But the person that he was every day, walking into work, was professional. You know, he was able to make the best out of it. So I got a lot of respect for Chris.
What was going on the boat? Like, what was happening?
it was really just going to work. You know, we had a game that day, so we went over to Oakland, got on the boat with Klay. He showed us how to drive it, but we were really just chilling, embracing the open sea.
Are you a boat guy?
I am now.
Just big picture, how do you want to remember this season?
The biggest thing that I take from this season is the team. Like, this was a special team, through and through, from Corey Joe to Jerome, Loon, Steph, Kate. Like, everybody had so many different situations going on. It was just the atmosphere that we had every day in practice, on the bus, at dinners. Like, it was just a really good group of young men together, striving for a goal, having adversity, you know, if you had a great group of people and y'all were just sitting in a room every day, then you don't really get to experience how good of people that you're dealing with. But when you're going through adversity and things get hard, times get hard, y'all get tired of each other, and the way that people combat adversity, you can watch and take things from other people. Like, we went through a whole journey together and with solid dudes. So that's what I'll take from this year. That's why, I mean, you know, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but it even felt like this could have been a special year just because of that. Cool.
Perfect, thank you.
Where do you feel like you want to get better the most this summer?
Yeah, I think just naturally my role is going to increase. I think the ball will be in my hands a little bit more, and just being more efficient, trying to take the burden kind of off Steph and Draymond's shoulders. How can the rest of our guys just impact things? I think a lot of times when we got into games that really mattered or we really need to win, we kind of just defer to Steph, and I think that's natural just because of the level, you know, that he's at and that he's been doing for so long. But I think for our other guys, it's just how can we impact games that are meaningful and, you know, take the burden off his shoulders. I mean, yeah, I think that naturally, you know, comes with your second year of improving. But just in all facets of the game, continue to elevate my assist-to-turnover ratio, you know, try to lead the team in rebounding again, just all that kind of stuff that impacts winning at a high level. Because at the end of the day, you know, I don't want to be in the play-in anymore. I had my little taste of it, and it was terrible. So just getting that top 6 seed every year is something I look forward to.
Brandon, after getting drafted by a team like the Warriors with the roster that they have, could you have ever imagined having the impact that you did as a rookie?
Confidently, I would say yes, but also there's a realization of, you know, who you got in front of you, Hall of Famers. Even, you know, when we had Corey at my position, he's an established veteran who's been on championship teams. So just knowing that, but going into each and every day, controlling the little things that I do, you know, playing well on defense, communication, all that kind of things, not turning the ball over, learning how to play with Steph and Klay, allowed me to kind of get on the floor. And then when you're on the floor, just impacting winning, which I think I did with my plus-minus this year. I think that's was a staple, and I think it's just going to continue to get better.
In your meetings with the coaches today, where did the summer league come up in your conversations?
Yeah, I'll definitely be playing. I know me and Trayce will. It's an opportunity for, you know, me and him to lead a team and to be the best players out there and to lead other guys, you know, who are new coming in or played on our G League squad with us, and win. And I think it's super critical, you know, for Mike and for Steve, to see the leadership that me and Trayce can provide. And for me, it's an opportunity to show them what I can do with the ball in my hands. Obviously, that sample size was, you know, obviously minimal because we had Steph and Chris. But I think it would be a huge opportunity for me.
Was there a point this season where you felt, I don't just belong, but I can lead too?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that belief. But like I said in Anthony's question, it was just you have Steph and you have CP, and you don't want to overstep as a rookie. You understand what they've accomplished and what they bring to the table. So, I mean, I look back at that Milwaukee game in Milwaukee. Steph and CP didn't play, and to do the things that I did, I think in that game, kind of goes to show where I can get to. But at the end of the day, we have those two guys, and they're Hall of Fame guys. So, just kind of finding my role as a rookie and trying to fit in where I can fit in was the biggest key for me.
You mentioned, I mean, you guys were in the play-in 10 seed. If the roster changes this summer are marginal, do you think you guys can't make a big leap?
Yeah, because I think our young guys will get way better. Obviously, everybody's confidence will take a step up. But like I said to your question earlier, just taking that burden off Steph and Draymond and not always having to rely on them. And so when teams, scout for us, they're not just trying to take away, Steph and Klay. They have to worry about, me, Jonathan, Moses, Trayce. Just knowing that and knowing how much better I can get. This is the longest offseason I've ever had in my life. Last year was the draft combine, pre-draft. The year before that I was in the transfer portal. And then in high school, you're playing AAU the whole summer. So to have April all the way till October now is a lot of room for me to get better. And I'm excited to see what I look like come October.
Brandon, what's the biggest challenge you learned from an 82-game season?
Biggest challenge, I think me and Steph talked about it, just putting everything into perspective. Nothing's ever as good or as bad as it seems. And knowing that there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But the next game comes quick, and there's not many practices in between. So kind of watching, your previous games to get better, I think was super critical for me. And I think throughout the course of the year, each and every game I took a step up, and if I did take a step back, I took 2 more steps forward. So I feel like the way I finished out the year was pretty well. From when I first played against Minnesota or whatever game, New Orleans, to yesterday, I think I've improved so much. And like I said, just this year I'm going to be at come October, I think it'll be exciting for me.
I think you and Steph's relationship has obviously been talked about, but whether it's a player, a coach, et cetera, who's someone maybe behind the scenes that has been a surprise in your development too?
Yeah, I think a lot of our player development staff, surprisingly, Mike has been a huge piece of it. Obviously, he has connections back to Wisconsin. So just being able to talk to him about stuff, we have a lot of player development guys, Seth Cooper, Chris DeMarco, all guys from Wisconsin. So to have that comfort and them have understanding of kind of where we come from and stuff like that, having Loon around has been, super impactful. He's not a guy that's going to put up huge numbers, but his impact on our locker room is second to none. Just the insight that he provides, the confidence that he gives to our younger guys, has something that kind of goes by the wayside because of everything else we have going on. But he's super impactful.
What did you appreciate about being teammates with Klay this season?
Oh, Mike, it's amazing just to see a high-level shooter like that. Obviously, being a teammate with the 2 best shooters in the world, in my opinion, was something I'm never going to forget. The way he just kind of goes about his life is pretty funny. Just his love for the water and always invite me to go out on his boat and just being a team guy. Obviously, people just talk about the free agency, the re-signing, and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't really kind of let that fall into our hands. He keeps kind of that his own kind of stuff. And for me, he's been a great teammate. He's always inspired me to do more. When I make a couple shots in the game, he always wants me to shoot more. So just hearing that from a Hall of Fame type of guy was pretty special for me.
So did you go on the boat?
I went on there once, but I didn't get the full experience like Moses and Chris did.
You talked briefly about Summer League with Trayce.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a group of young guys, obviously, Jonathan, Moses, everybody, but how much of a bond do you feel with Trayce as the same rookie class and the impact you guys had, and how much have you guys talked about your potentially expanding role, presumably expanding role in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I feel like he's a brother to me. I feel like every step of our NBA journey we've been together and we've done it together. From Santa Cruz, from Summer League last year, to being out of the rotation together. We ended up starting a game together against Utah a few weeks ago. But I'm super excited. Like I said, us four young guys are kind of the future, however way you want to look at that. And for me and Trayce, just developing that connection, not only on the floor but off the floor, is something that's going to be, impactful for years to come.
Are you planning on spending a lot of time back home in Wisconsin this summer, or sticking around here?
A little bit of both. I'll be around here, for basketball stuff, getting better, figuring out my body, doing things that will help me. But I'm definitely going to go home, probably take a vacation or two, just to relax.
And then, one common thing that came up with you is just your confidence, and even as a rookie being, brash and loud in the locker room and in practice. I guess, what did you learn about how your personality fits in the NBA this year?
Yeah, I think for me, I was a little, I would say, nervous or timid coming in, just because what they've done and how they've done things. So for me, adding my personality and adding what I kind of bring, I didn't know if that would fit or it wouldn't, and I think it did for the best. And I think, to the veterans' credit, they allowed me to be who I was, and it kind of just flowed. And throughout the year, I kind of learned that I was able to have a voice, and I was able to, voice what I thought, and they actually took it into consideration and kind of listened to me and said some things, which that in itself kind of gives you a confidence level going into the new year, that you bring leadership qualities and you can have a leadership role on this team being so young.
Hey, Chris. After a season here, reflecting back, what was it like to play for the Warriors?
It was a unique experience. You know what I mean? I'm glad I got an opportunity to play with the guys that I did, get a chance to meet new people, play for an organization I never would have imagined I played for. But, I'm grateful for the experience, and, yeah.
That being said, if you had an opportunity to play again here next year, is that something you'd like to exercise?
I mean, I'm open to all, things. I think right now what's on my mind probably is getting back, spending some time with my family, seeing them. I'm forever grateful to the organization or whatnot and how much they allowed me to get back and see my family as much. It's a big summer, our team came up short, but it was a tough season. Another hand surgery number 5. But all in all, it was fun battling with these guys. I just hope at some point I can get out there and play and try to make a bigger impact.
Chris, compared to maybe your expectations coming on this team, what's something that might have surprised you about being around this organization?
It was a lot of surprise, good surprises. Man, everything is first class. I tell you that much from everything. Big shout out to Eric Howes and the training staff, to Raymond and his crew, and all these the different people and the different personnel. You talk about it's a players' league. They really treat you like that over here, and it was really nice to see.
We obviously know the storyline about it becoming your first time ever coming off the bench. Steve really commended you on everything, that as far as how you took your role, starter, bench, anything. Do you have a desire, as far as whether it's here or anywhere else, to be a starter, or does that matter front of mind for you?
I think for me, I showed the ability to adapt and change, you know what I mean? But first and foremost, I'm a competitor, right? So I want to hoop, and I just love to play. I love to play. I love to contribute, and just I think that's, what it is for me. So I think it's a big summer. I got to get back to work, get back to get back to work.
Hey, Chris, you said when you were talking to Anthony that you got a chance, you tell people you got a chance to look behind the curtain. And tell us a little bit more about what you saw in terms of, what this team is like on a locker room level, what the coaching is like, management.
You might have to hoop yourself to get all that stuff. But, I think for me when I said that, it was more so about really getting to know Dre, Steph, and Klay. Obviously Loon too, but especially them three, given the amount of times we'd competed and played against each other. And just seeing everything, as far as this arena. Obviously I played most of my games at Oracle, seeing the fans, seeing everything, and it was good to have a lot of the conversations that we had. And then also just an appreciation, right? Because although we battled against each other time and time again, there's an appreciation for the work that goes in and day out, and that's sort of what I meant about that.
We know you got to talk to your family and everything, but we know that you want to keep playing and you don't want to retire. What motivates you to keep going, at this stage of your career?
Just I love it. You know what I mean? Like I've been playing basketball since I was 4 years old, and there's nothing other than my family that brings me more joy, right, than the hard work and all that stuff that goes into it. And that's why we get to play a child's game and say it's my way of life and take care of my family. So that's why I do it. That's why I continue to do it, and I'll be back ready for next season.
And this was the first time in probably like 14, 15 years for you that you're not in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
How much does the way this season ends sour your experience here, and I guess how much of a priority is getting back to the playoffs for you?
Yeah, don't feel good, but it is what it is. I'll get a chance to travel and be an AAU dad, make some of my daughter's volleyball games, and a little bit of a longer break than usual, but it is what it is.
You've had a chance to see probably the best view of anybody of this Warriors team from the very beginning, like 12 years ago, when they were first starting to go to the playoffs and stuff like that. So you've watched them all along the way, and now you've been part of it. Does this seem like a team, a dynasty that's in a major transition point, or how do you look at it?
I don't know. I played against them 12 years ago, but I was on my own journey. You know what I mean? But, like I said, I have a deep appreciation for Steph, shooting and training with him day in and day out, dealing with, so many off-the-court things, just life, appearances, all the different things that I know he has going on with Dre, the season that he had, dealing with a lot, and same thing with Klay. So I think there's an appreciation for those guys, dealing with all the things that they've had to deal with over the past, I don't know how many years, that I'm grateful that I got a chance to know them on more than a basketball level. I really got a chance to know who they are, and I appreciate them for that.
This seemed like, it felt from the outsider's viewpoint, that for you this was more than just a passing through season, just another stop on the long journey, that maybe it was...
Yeah, I don't really operate like that. Any situation I go into, I'm all in. It was like that in Houston. It was like that in OKC. I think a lot of times people talk about that season in OKC, we weren't going to do it, but I've always tried to make an impact wherever I was. So we came up short here this year, but I'm excited about the summer and getting back to work and seeing what's what.
Everyone talked about what a great mentor you have been for some of the young guys. How do you describe the growth in the young guys, whether it's a BP, Trayce, JK, Moses?
Yeah, it's funny, man, because I might have said it, I don't know, all these years we running together. I don't know if I said it here this year or I said it when I got to OKC, when everybody always talk about mentor, and I'd be like, that's all good and well, but I like to hoop.
But for me, I'm not like a hoarder of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I've had so many people who have sort of mentored me, taught me things over the years, whether it be Bobby Jackson, I'm tripping, Bobby Jackson or PJ Brown, you know what I mean? Some of my vets, all the way to Gennaro Pargo, Tyson Chandler, David West, all these guys. I've had so many people who have taught me things, and it wouldn't sit right with me if I just kept all that knowledge to myself. So I just try to pass on some of those little tidbits so that they know.
You've gotten to know Draymond pretty well, apparently. What would you say to his critics who say, he can still play and all that stuff, but he's not available. He puts himself out of the action too much and stuff like that. How would you address that?
Yeah, that's why they sit and talk from where they at. They not playing, and everybody always gonna have something to say. A pair of lips to say anything.
Blake Griffin announced his retirement yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Were you guys able to connect? I know you two were close, and I guess when you were playing, did you ever think that he'd retire before you did?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. That was wild yesterday when I seen it, because you don't always see eye to eye with everybody or always have the kumbaya relationship, but me and Blake got a chance to talk, was it last year, 2 years ago or whatnot, and so there will always be so much love and respect there. And sometimes you just have to reflect on situations, and I catch myself looking at highlights of Blake at times, and it's with anything, man. Sometimes you don't appreciate, what it was until it's gone. And so DJ texted me yesterday, DeAndre Jordan. He texted me like, damn, like he was, surprised or whatnot. Obviously, we all have that time, but, that's, 6 of the funnest years of my career, man, and there'll never be another Blake Griffin. Guys on the team, it's funny, some of the young guys be asking, they be like, yo, see, what was it like? I say, you'll never see nothing like it. Never see nothing like it, and so I wish BG nothing but the best to him and his family, and man, that was a time.
Cool.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Yep. I guess get bigger question out of the way earlier. Just how do you view your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown?
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future? There was a lot of games played, man. That was a pretty big accomplishment. What's up with y'all not wanting to live in the present, bro? It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was your question?
About the future. Obviously it's a pretty major topic. You're a franchise legend here who is an unrestricted free agent and certainly at this point has an unknown future here. How confident are you that you'll be back?
To be honest, I really haven't given it much thought because of what I previously just said about the season we had and how much commitment it takes to play the games we did and give it our all. So I really haven't thought about that deep in the future because I still need to process the year we had, and it was one filled with ups and downs, but ultimately I personally and our team did everything we could to try and, win as many games as we possibly could.
Living in the present, what were some things
Place to be.
What were some things going through your head, last night when you were walking off the court? I know you lingered there a little bit longer than usual after the game.
Some of the things going through my head. Well, the first one, just disappointment because did not shoot the ball well, obviously. Big old donut, so that wasn't very fun. I did look up in the nosebleeds, though, and I did see a man wearing a number 11 jersey, and that made me happy, considering my history in Sacramento, from playing a state championship there to playing the Kings in the playoffs. That was kind of a full circle moment for me. So that was actually a good moment, just seeing that Warriors fan standing by his lonesome up in the 300 level, repping 11. That made me grateful.
Steph, Steph, Draymond, and Steve all basically said they want you back. They want to keep this thing rolling. What does it mean to you to hear that from those guys? And you probably already knew it, but what does it mean to hear that from those guys telling the public that?
It means a lot. I mean, we've been through the highest of highs and lows, whether it's losing a championship, winning a championship, missing the playoffs. We've been through everything together, so that does mean a lot, and makes me grateful to have the times I've had with them. Like, done some pretty historic stuff.
How do you view the next several weeks going? And I mean, it's clear like you're not necessarily ready to think about the future this moment, but like, how quickly do you think you're going to have to kind of pivot and figure that out? And what conversations do you feel like you need to have?
Well, consider it's April 17th. I don't think I have to pivot that quickly. When is free agency? July 1st? Yeah, I got some time.
Klay, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you learned this past season?
The biggest lesson that I learned? Probably I learned that, you got to you can't be a front runner. You can't shy away from the bad moments and just embrace the great ones. You got to embrace them all. That's for anything you do in life.
Klay, that was kind of along what I was going to ask, but what kind of growth did you see in yourself this season, specifically with different roles? You had, some ups and downs, and you shined and came back from some tough stretches and came off the bench and started, and just you did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think I learned that the best ability is availability, and I thought I did that very well this season, playing through tough times or being available almost nightly, only missing a handful of games. So I learned that when you give yourself that shot of being out there every night, that's the best thing you can do for yourself, rather than just hanging on to those big scoring nights or whatever. It's about just competing nightly.
And were there any breakthroughs for you emotionally with, just everything you went through and just being able to handle everything you went through?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong person. You don't take a couple years off injury and come back and play that many games without being strong-willed and minded. So that's what I did learn about myself, is that it takes a lot of mental fortitude to play through injury and shooting slumps, all that. It takes a lot of willpower. No problem.
No, you'll have time to obviously think about, what you want to do next, but what do you want to prioritize, for yourself kind of moving forward? What are your priorities?
Obviously, you want to keep winning. I mean, when you've been a part of winning seasons, you don't really want to go away from that. So I would like to win again. One for the thumb would be nice. I still think it's in reach. It's just going to, take a huge effort. But other than that, just got to think about that. What will really make you happy in the last, few years of your career?
You just talked about kind of living in the moment, the best ability being availability. You played 77 games this year. What are you most proud about for this season?
That amount of games I played, and averaging 18 points and playing 77 games. it's not my career averages, but it's still pretty dang good for, yeah, it's still pretty dang good.
Klay, last night Draymond was saying that he doesn't see any scenario in which the ownership group of this team doesn't at least put forth the effort to take care of the guys that have taken care of this organization so much over the last 10 years. Do you feel that kind of effort and love, specifically in this scenario, but then also over, I guess since your entire career here, but since 2019, going through the injuries, the extension after that, just that they've put in that effort to make you guys and you feel appreciated?
Oh, man. Well, 2019. Well, could you imagine if they didn't pay me after I got hurt? That would have been really bad. Like, went to 5 straight finals? You blew your knee out? Yeah. Sorry. So, no, that was very nice of them. I try. Every year I give my best effort, and ownership group has been great. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. They treat us with great respect and do all the little things for us to do our jobs at the highest level. So it's been, I don't really know how to answer that. It's up to them, but at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's all gravy. It's been such a freaking special run.
Klay, how much has your appreciation and love for the game grown, especially since the 2 injuries? Thinking about that first game you came back here at Chase Center to where we are today.
Yeah, that was one of the best moments of my life, to be honest. Before those injuries, I was really naive and thinking, like, this is easy. Like, all I got to do is do your routine and you just go out there and hoop. And, yeah, it's that easy, but, playing that many years of basketball takes a toll on your body. And I think that's for any sportsman who plays a physical sport. There's going to be times where you might break, and like I said before about being a front runner, you don't want to be a front runner when things are great. You got to really dig deep when you go through injuries like that. That's just a part of the beast.
Klay, since you've proven you're still a quality scorer in this league, obviously teams are playing you differently. It looks like, they're pressing up on you, being physical. How have you had to adjust? And moving forward, what do you think you need to do to kind of combat how teams are going to guard you?
I think I just need to keep doing what I've been doing, honestly. I think last night was just a bad shooting night. It happens. Unfortunately, it was in a one-game format, but that's the situation we were in, and much different than a 7-game series. So I just thought I had a off night from the office. Can't let that deter me from what I think of myself or what I'm capable of. I think I just need to continue to be in great shape and have fun, and I'll be great.
Klay, you've talked about gratitude for just playing basketball, and obviously the connection with Draymond and Steph comes up a lot, but how much do you also sort of view this organization, your connection with Steve? He's the only coach you've had. You talked about how the conversations with him this year that helped turn your season around. Beyond just Steph and Draymond, how comfortable are you in this organization, and how does that sort of shape any decision this offseason?
I played for Mark Jackson, too.
Oh, that's true. Sorry.
And, I love everyone here, from the security who does the floor at the games to the security from the Oracle days. I'm still friends with them. To the community of Oakland. I grew up in the Bay Area, really. I've been here since I was 21, and I just always have loved it. E. Housen, even Ray Ritter. I've gotten to know these people on.
Draymond, you're laughing at the score sheet. What did you see from the score sheet on this game, and what do you think? Where do you think it went wrong?
We lost 118-94. That's what I was laughing at. I think they were just more physical than us the whole game.
Draymond, you guys aren't used to having your season end so early. What are the emotions as maybe you're either checking out of the game for the last time, you guys are walking off the court for the final time, seeing Klay turn back and kind of take in the scene? What are the emotions for you in those moments?
Just kind of upset. It's lost. It's a fun group to come to work with every day, so kind of sucks that comes to an end, but yeah, I don't really know.
Do you have confidence that it's a fun group to come work with every day? Do you have confidence that this group will still be the core group here next season?
Yeah, I have no reason not to. They've stuck with us through the good and the bad. It's not so great this year, but can't win every year. So, yeah, I do have confidence until it's no longer.
How vocal will you be about the need to bring Klay back? I mean, that's kind of the biggest question lingering.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we want Klay back. It's we've been through a lot. Incredible highs, some shitty lows. But the common denominator through both of them is that we've gone through each and every scenario together. So it's obvious that we want to continue what we've been doing, but I understand he got a decision to make. He's going to make the best decision for him. Team got a decision to make. They'll make the best decision for the team. But, I have no doubt that even if, which I don't think there's any scenario where Klay leaves and that's the best decision for this team and organization. But what I don't doubt is if Joe or Mike or anybody felt that it was best that this team moves forward without Klay, that wouldn't be the decision they make because they believe that. They've shown nothing but respect, loyalty, love, trust to us. So I got no reason to go into it like, oh man, they're not going to do right by Klay. They did right by me. They've done right by Steph. They've done right by all of us. Klay tore his ACL. They paid him $160 million. So I have no reason to think that our ownership group aren't going to take care of us the way we've taken care of this organization. Like I said, ultimately that decision will be Klay's. But I don't look at it like, oh man, they're going to only do what's. There's a lot of organizations that will only do what's best for the organization. This ain't one of them.
Draymond, even as you guys went through this up and down season, you get ready for this game. Before this game, when you look at Steph and Klay, how much belief is there from you about what you guys can do going into this game?
I always got belief coming into games like this, do-or-die situations. Each and every time those guys come through. Klay had a rough shooting night tonight, but he competed. Shots don't always fall. We got him some great looks. They just didn't go in. Shots that he hit, any other time they just didn't fall. And so I always ride with those guys, man. They always step up to the challenge, and it's no different tonight. Shots just didn't go in.
You guys are proud, and you guys have had a lot of accomplishments. How hard was it to take a game like this at this time?
Loss is a loss. I don't really look at it like, oh man, this game and what happened, and we're done this year. So it's just that.
Dre, how would you categorize this season for you personally?
Interesting. Very interesting. But it was fun. Always enjoyed playing basketball. Like I said, going to war with those guys in that locker room each and every night made anything that I went through personally worth it, because I got to step back in there with the guys that had my back each and every day. So I never really look at it like from a personal standpoint, I've had incredible years where I've been all-star, defensive player of the year, champion, all of that. It's never about what it necessarily is for me personally, So I'm always one, I take the good with the bad. Not a front runner. I don't only show up when it's good. I show up even more when it's bad, and through the ups and downs in this season, anytime, it's time to show up, and, and that's what I would do, and I said the bumps in the road along the way that sucked made it a lot easier walking in the locker room and practice with those guys. So interested nonetheless. I think I grew a lot, and you take that growth, you channel it, find other ways to grow, get better, keep pushing forward.
Draymond, those first couple games of the season that you guys played the Kings, we were discussing that you had the Kings number at the time, and you were saying, well, you didn't think so, but it was just part of the learning process. Now they got one, and they get to move on. Do you have any parting ways, at least for this season, how they've been playing? Because they did have some bad losses, but they withstand that. And like I said, they got you tonight.
Yeah, it's a good team. I don't think any differently of them because they won than I thought before. What they're capable of. It's a team that took us to 7 last year, and we're able to pull out that series. But, they're a team to be reckoned with. Not last year, not this year, but, as the years move forward, they'll be right there. Great coaching staff. Ownership group has done an incredible job. Fox is taking that next step. Sabonis, Keegan Murray continues to grow. HB being that solid vet for them. They got a good thing going. And you said down the stretch wasn't ideal for them. To even be in this situation wasn't ideal. But you got to take the cards that you're dealt and play the hand. And so, they're doing a good job of that. They came out victorious tonight. And it'll be interesting to watch and see their growth.
Draymond, even when you guys were under 500, Steve always said that this was one of his favorite groups to coach, and he really loved coaching this group. And you alluded to how much you like playing with this group. Why do you think that is, even on a season where you guys didn't get to where you wanted to go? There was that enjoyment, and what is the lasting memory of this group, even right at this point?
This team been through a lot, man. And through it all, nobody ever wavered. And you can appreciate a group like that. Chemistry on this team is great, which always helps. And it was a fun group, to show up with every single day. When the times were great, the group was great. When the times was bad, the group was great, And so, what you take away from it is obviously it didn't end the way we wanted to end, but it was fun going to work each and every day.
Draymond, you guys had 46 wins. Normal years, you're somewhere near the middle of the conference. This year you're in the play-in. Do you look at that and say, man, it's just a weird year? Or do you say, man, it's a lot of teams between us and getting back to the top?
Every year there's 29 teams in between you and getting to the top, so I don't view this one as any different than that. But I think I view that as the league has gotten better. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And I think the league is improving. So I don't necessarily view it as like next year, if we got 46 wins, it'll be more normal and you'll be in 4th seed or 6th seed. I don't think that's the case. I think the league has improved and it's going to continue to get better. So, you got to figure it out. I think, when we look at our season, we won 46 games. I can count on you right now. I can count 6 losses to you right off the top of my head that, we gave away, And so I think the learning experience is the games that you're supposed to win, you have to win. And some of the games that you're not supposed to win, you got to pluck a few of those away too. And that's becoming more and more true in this league with the parity. that there is in the NBA. And I think, I try to pride myself on being a guy who understands the business of basketball, understand the rules, and I think we're going to see more of that with the new salary restrictions and tax levels and all those things. I think you're going to see more parity because of that. And so I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that's going to be more and more that way rather than reverting back the opposite way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Your season with Chris, what did you think of how he handled the job he had to do and kind of his, I guess, unknown future with you guys?
Man, Chris was great. I'm thankful and honored, happy as hell that I got the opportunity to play with him this year. That we all got the opportunity to be teammates with Chris. It's not something in a million years, as I've said a million times, that we ever would have imagined. And, other than winning, couldn't have gone any better. Learned so much from him, built a relationship that'll go beyond whether he's here next year or not, whether I'm here next year or not, and so, man, extremely thankful for C. There's not, I haven't come across many, if any, guys like that in this league, and so it's just an honor to play with him. As a teammate, I hope, we get to continue doing what we do here in these uniforms. And, man, I hope and pray that he's back and that I'm back, because it's an honor having him as a teammate. The way he competes, you love going to war with guys like that.
Steph, you had a lot of time to have this one sink in even while you were playing. Just what were your thoughts as this was happening, as you probably understood that the season was ending and the way it did? What were you thinking?
It's a horrible feeling. When you go out there and compete, leave it all out there, and it doesn't go your way. We obviously understand you can't win it every year, but there was so much belief that we could make something of this season and keep our hopes alive, trying to get a win tonight and taking it from there. Sacramento played unbelievable tonight. They played aggressive, and Keegan's making shots. D Fox is creating. It seemed like they got every 50-50 loose ball, offensive rebound, and it was a tough way to end our year for sure, because we've obviously been through so much all year. These last 2 months, gave ourselves a chance to be in this situation where you win one game, then you're right where we expect to be, but we're going home. So definitely frustrating, disappointing, to say the least. But you hold your head high knowing there's a lot more in the tank. And for me personally, that's the mindset.
After Klay has a performance as he does tonight, do you say anything to him, especially given that it's the last game of the season and he is entering unrestricted free agency?
I know that everybody's going to try to connect that, but it's about the sense of pride and I think just the commending him on a hell of a year. Everybody's going to talk about one game, and I know he wanted to play better, but we go through so much over 82 games, and the fact that he was able to turn his season around with a new role and adjusting to coming off the bench for a long period and then, back in the starting lineup and just really just having fun playing basketball and being at peace out there. I'm more worried about that because I know he's a true champion, and we all, again, prepare ourselves to play, our best when the lights are bright, and when it doesn't happen, nobody needs to tell you anything because all we want to do is win. And numbers aside, that's the only thing that matters.
Steph, it looks like tonight you had 2 and 3 guys following you, like they had a very specific game plan to take you away. Did it feel like that was kind of indicative of the year and trying to figure out how to attack these defenses and how to use that to benefit everybody else, so to speak? Does it feel like this was tougher than normal this year?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there's certain lineups that we have out there that teams are, going to make other people either be ball handlers or shot creators. But we obviously have counters to a lot of stuff. It's just tonight was the extreme version of that, where I know they remember what happened last year, and got a lot of history with Mike B and the way that he approaches the defensive end. So I wasn't surprised that it was that aggressive and bodies everywhere. I think we had certain stretches of the game where we made them pay, but over the course of 48, that strategy worked. So you tip your hat to them. I always try to find ways to still be aggressive, and had a couple, loose turnovers, but for the most part, they just took it to us the whole game, and there's really no other way around it.
You said you can hold your head high knowing that there's a lot more in the tank. What gives you confidence that you and the core of you, Klay, and Draymond have a lot more in the tank?
Just knowing how we're built. I mean, we obviously understand the league has changed, and we're getting deeper into our careers, and we have to continue to evolve and make the necessary adjustments to win games. But we put a lot of time into it. I think I work harder than I ever have at being prepared for a season and trying to perform at the level that I expect. And I know those two guys have been through it with me. At the end of the day, I just want to win, and I know that that's fully possible. I know the summer's going to be a lot of conversations and trying to set up ourselves to win, and whatever that means. I hope that's the outcome.
What do you think about your season with Chris Paul, and I guess your view on his future, either with you guys or not?
Haven't played against him for so many years. There's a lot said about our relationship when I was coming out of college and shadowing him for a summer or two, and him showing me the ropes, and then obviously the playoff experiences that we had playing against him. I know him, his family. I know the way he approaches things, but when you see it on a day-to-day through the course of the season, you see how passionate he is about the game of basketball, the conversations you have, the way that we kind of push each other. I had so much fun playing with him. I know he's year 19, and I don't know how this thing will play out, but he is a guy that you love playing with because he brings it every single day. He gives everything he has to this game. A guy that you kind of battle with who puts the most time in. Like you think you're at the gym early, he's always there. So it's kind of great to see somebody that loves the game as much as you do. And I know he's always going to find ways to try to be impactful. And we'll see what happens over the course of the summer. But a team, having him is a better team because of the way he approaches everything.
Steph, following up on Kendra's question, Steve talked often about how much pressure Klay puts on himself, and he struggled the last few elimination games. How do you see him? How difficult is that when the lights are brightest for him to put pressure on himself? How do you, as a friend and teammate, do you say anything to him? Or do you see that? Do you see him put that pressure on himself? Or I'm curious your thoughts on.
I see him approach the game the right way, and it just hasn't worked out. Hasn't worked out for him individually with the numbers and the way that he expects to play, and that's okay. It happens. This is sports. It's unpredictable, and we've all been in that experience where you have amazing highs, and he's had those, and we've all had deep lows where you walk off the court and you're super hard on yourself because you wished it would have gone in a different way. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just part of what we do and how hard it is of, what we do over and over and how long we've been doing it. So the spotlight is bright and you have to accept, the highs and lows of what we do, but not lose confidence in yourself. And I think Klay's been a walking model of that, earlier in the year people were talking about his play and he responded. So it's a tough way to end the season, but I'm sure he'll be back strong.
Steph, how do you feel, I guess, physically? You've had to carry a heavy load, especially with some of the changes that's been going on, on the floor in the last maybe quarter. Did you feel fatigued? Did you feel the burden? I mean, you talked about Chris Paul being in year 19. You're what year, 15? How do you feel?
I know I'm answering this question April 16th with no more games left, but I feel great. If we had to play Friday, I'd have been fine. If, going to a playoff series, I'd have been fine. Like, I'm built for this, and I put so much time in. And then, there's no sympathy, you had this burden to carry and all that. That's what we get paid to do. And, did everything in my power to be available and perform at the level that I expect of myself. I don't care what anybody else has to say, and I think I'm going to keep doing that. And just be with the perspective I'm blessed to play this game, and I still have fun playing this game. And again, I just want to win and be in the best situation to make that happen. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the future.
Steph, you talked about the highs and the lows and all the emotions. What did you enjoy most about playing with this particular group of guys this season?
Just how we've handled all the adversity of this year. It's been an emotional roller coaster, for sure. And you realize how much time you spend together. I think we talk about that every year. This is 9-10 months of a grind, and from the time this group showed up to some voluntary mini camps in the summer to training camp to all 82 games we played, and again everything that we went through, from some guys missing from time to time, losing a member of our family, to looking up in the stands and trying to find a way to stay relevant down the stretch of the year. Like we always kept our spirit and kept the juices flowing in the right direction and kept good energy and confidence in each other. That's hard to do. So I'm proud of that, because there's plenty of excuses that you could have let go of the rope a long time ago. And, we had a really good, strong finish to the season. Still a 10 seed, but it was weird. But you're in a position where you have life, and that's all you ask for. It just didn't work out.
Just, I guess, big picture, what do you feel like the young guys on this team can take away from this experience this season, and moving forward, how can their development help get you guys to where you want to go?
We asked a lot of BP, Trayce, and JK took another step, a big step in the right direction. So invaluable reps to understand how hard it is to win in this league, and what it takes to be consistent every single night. So hopefully they instilled some confidence in themselves that they, can contribute, and will carry that momentum into the summer where, they put the work in, and, whatever mixture of roster we have coming back, we're going to need some youth to come in and help us. And I think we found some gems for sure. So it's just a matter of continue to make the necessary adjustments as a team to understand what's the 24-25 Warriors going to look like, and what's it going to take to win. I think they felt that all year, and hopefully learned some valuable lessons.
Steph, Draymond and the coach just mentioned they want Klay come back next season. How confident are you that he will be back next season?
I can never see myself, not with those two guys. I understand this league changes and there's so many things that go into it, and we're not going to play forever, but You know, we've experienced so much together, and at the end of the day, like, again, I know they want to win. I know I want to win, and that's all I worry. That's all I'm worried about.
Well, it sounds like you think little changes, little tweaks are reasonable, and you guys can win with that, and big changes aren't necessary.
I mean, I'm talking to Mike and Coach, and this league, you never know, man. Like, it's raw right now. Just sitting here, gonna be figuring out if I want to watch the playoffs or not on April 16th. Like, this is not this is unfamiliar territory. So even to answer that question, it's like, I just want to win, and whatever that means.
This was kind of a different year for you. I mean, you know, we've been watching you start most of the time the last few years. This year you were in and out starting, sometimes in the rotation, sometimes out. What was it like for you just going through that, and how did you deal with it?
It was tough a little bit, you know, road changes from night to night. Try to make the most of it. We was a pretty deep team, and we had a lot of, you know, guys that could bring different things to the table. So it was a lot of different lineups that we tried and different things like that. So I was just trying to figure out how I could try to make an impact on this team and on the court. Wasn't always the easiest, but I feel like towards the end of the year, I didn't play that much minutes, but I feel like I was still able to help be part of the team. So definitely it was different.
How do you see your future here?
I mean, I'm not always in control of my future here, so, you know, like, I always would love to come back, you know, be part of this team, part of this organization. It's all I kind of know. But, you know, it's the NBA. You know, when you don't make the playoffs and you lose, you know, stuff usually happens. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to be prepared for the next step.
Did they give you any indication today?
Not really. No, it's kind of too early. We got a lot of things that we got to figure out first. You know, I don't think I'm top of the list, but I'm just, you know, keep working and you know, keep evolving my game and try to get better, and you know, be able to help our team win.
It seemed like Steve stuck with that starting lineup with you and Draymond from last year for much of the first half. What do you think, just looking back at it now, what do you think went wrong with that lineup?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I probably didn't play with that lineup since like December, so that seems like a long time ago. So I don't really kind of know. We never got on the right page. We didn't really get our chemistry right. You know, Draymond not being for training camp, we all kind of got off to a slow start. And different things like that. Guys weren't playing their best all at the same time. So things weren't working, so kind of went away from it and never kind of went back to it. So, it was just tough.
You guys went you went 22 and 32 against teams with winning records.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was the biggest difference between you guys and some of the better teams, some of the contending teams in the league?
We just played good. In those games, we always play a good game for 42 minutes or 43 minutes. We never put together a full game. There would be times where against the best teams that we would be up most of the game, or we even take a lead, and the other team would just make a run, and we couldn't close it out at the end. I think that's probably our biggest struggle in our record. We lost a lot of games at the buzzer, a lot of games where we had a lead that kind of could have changed the season. But you live and you learn, and we wasn't. I think we just didn't execute good enough sometimes to close games.
Despite some of the struggles, I mean, guys pretty consistently talked about just the camaraderie that this group had. How do you plan on remembering this particular season?
This is a crazy season. It's a season that I'll probably always stick out in my NBA career, just for how much we had to go through, how much we experienced as a team together. Some of the things that we went through was not normal in the NBA season, despite just the losing and different things like that. But coming to work every day was always fun. It was always a safe place. Even though having a loss like we did with coach in the middle of the season, it was still able to come to work and feel the love from our teammates, the staff, the training staff, the other workers. It just made every day a little bit brighter. So yeah, camaraderie was great. Wish we could have had a chance to make a run in the playoffs together as a group, but the way things felt, it didn't go that way.
Kevon, despite kind of your role fluctuating sometimes, your leadership was still obviously very much accounted for. What's the challenge in that, and who are maybe some of the veterans you've learned about that in the past, even when times are going up and down?
It was definitely it was challenging sometimes just because it's easier to lead when you're out there on the court, and they feel more comfortable leading when you're playing well and you're feeling really good about yourself. But I learned from a lot of guys. From Andre, he didn't probably play last year. Didn't really play, but he's one of our biggest leaders of our team. And I talked to Zaza. He's still with the organization. Sometimes when I need somebody to talk to or lean on, I was able to talk to him. D. West, Bogut, some of the former players I played with, they taught me a lot about leading from the back, not always being in the front, being able to be a voice and being able to talk to guys, be able to connect the team. And so I just remember everything that they taught me and try to do the same things. So yeah.
And whether it was Steve, Steph, or Draymond last night, there's still a lot of confidence in this group still being able to make a run. What's your trust factor as far as that group still being able to contend with you?
I trust it all the way. As long as you got those three and a coach like Steve, it's always a chance that we can do something special. You got to add pieces, change the pieces around, but that three has shown that they can get it done with a different cast. Steph still's playing at a high level. Draymond's playing at a high level. Klay's been playing at a high level. So as long as those guys are healthy and are still want to do it at the level they want to, I think they can make a run. Like I said, pieces might have to change, but they've shown that they can do it with different groups.
Kevon, back here, we've talked a few times about you sort of mentoring Trayce.
Mm-hmm.
You played in this league a long time. You study centers. What about his game and his personality, his makeup, make you think he's going to be? What do you sort of see as his future, I guess?
I think he can be a really, really good player. His feel for the game, his athleticism, his touch around the rim is all things that you can't just teach. I think he finished like 80% around the rim. That's elite as a rookie. So I think he's only going to get better. He's only going to get smarter. He's only going to get stronger. So I think he has a chance to be a really, really good player, have a long career. Get the practice against him every day. I see his potential and what he can do, and I was just glad to see him out there doing it at a high level.
And just a quick follow up. And where do you see his need for improvement or his chance? What can he do much better next year to take another step?
For him, I think just being a better talker, communicate more on defensive end. I think this year he knew the coverages, but be able to talk and be able to coach your teammates through it is a different level. Something that we talked about all year as a team, not just him, but everybody just being more talkative on the court. And I also just like to see him just be a little meaner on the court. He has the strength and the power to be able to push guys around, and he does it. He shows flashes of it, so I like to see him just push guys around and be more physical sometimes. I think he has the capability of doing that.
Kevon, it looks like, from our perspective, a lot of things that has always worked with you guys didn't work as well. And there's a lot of talk about parity in the league being better. Did you feel like, is the league better? Our team's more athletic, or what's different now with the rest of the league?
I feel like the league definitely got better. I feel like I guess you can say it got more athletic, but I just think guys the scheme's a little different. Guys are playing a lot faster. Everybody's shooting more threes, and people are shooting the ball a lot better. That's probably the biggest difference. I would probably say that teams shot the ball a lot better. And I think last year 46 wins would have got us a lot higher in the playoffs. So teams were a lot better, a lot more competitive. I think the play-in made guys play for a lot longer. People were really trying to win. So I would say that was like the biggest difference.
Is there a part? I know you are one of the least emotional guys on the team.
Yeah.
But is there a part of you that watched Klay go through that and like feel it, knowing that all he's been through, or you like put some tussin on it, you'll be all right?
In the moment, I didn't really think about it. I didn't realize it. I really wasn't thinking about his game. We were trying to win, and I feel like it wasn't just. I feel like we all wasn't playing our best game, so it wasn't like, oh, this guy's killing us. He needs to play better. We feel like as a unit, we wouldn't compete to the level that we needed to compete at. I feel like we all played hard, but we didn't really execute the game plan like we were supposed to. We wasn't playing with that joy and that intensity that we needed to win that game. So after the game, you thought about like, man, that's. I wish Klay could have played better, and you never know what's going to happen. So I thought about it after that. But during the game, it was like, man, whatever. Klay gonna make the next one. He always do. That's kind of how we was thinking.
Can you imagine him playing elsewhere?
No. He's been here his whole career. When you think about the Warriors, you think Steph, you think him, you think Draymond, and so it would be weird seeing him put on another jersey or compete for somebody else. But the NBA. Guys switch more than stay on the same team nowadays, so it would be hard for me to imagine that.
I felt like it was 2022, right? And even some last year in the playoffs where, like, you were the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, your jersey was in the crowd. Like, you were talking about your statue. Like, is it crazy to you, like, how fast things change? Or does that feel like how it's been in your career? Like,
it's just normal to me. That's how it's been in my career. It's how this team has been covered. We are the greatest one day, and the next day we're all terrible. Get rid of everybody. So I kind of seen that before. I kind of knew that. So it's not like surprising or shocking. Like my first couple of years, they said I shouldn't be an NBA player. So it's just you just take all the noise and. Try to block it out and just keep believing in the work, believing in yourself, and believing what you can do. And I got the ultimate faith in myself and my teammates, and so I feel like I'm gonna still be around this league for a while.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna go down that line. You're 28 still.
Yeah.
How much good basketball do you think you have left?
I think I have a lot. I feel like I can get better. I didn't play a lot. After the first couple month or two, I don't feel like I played a lot of minutes. I didn't. I tried to take advantage of the opportunity that I was given. I feel like I can still develop. I feel like I can continue to get better. I done seen guys get better at this age, and I feel like I'm still learning the game and growing. So I feel like I got a lot more to give, a lot more to contribute. Just a few bad games here and there doesn't define my whole basketball legacy or what I got left. I feel like I got a lot left to give.
We've asked you this before over the years, but this year you seem to pull out the mid-range jumper a little bit more. You know what I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Does anything about how this year played out make you want to get behind that three-point line because you
For sure.
have some shooting ability?
For sure. Yes, definitely. I know I can shoot it. It's not something I haven't been asked to do. It's not something that they never needed me to do. But, they might not ask me to do that next year, but I feel like to get on the court, to prolong my career, and the next step for me is to be able to evolve my game and be more offensive-minded and be able to affect the game more than just one way. So it's something I've been working on even, since towards the end of the season. I've been working on it more, working out with Dario, picking his brain. He's a guy that kind of plays that way. So just trying to learn as much as I can, learning from different players, and just watching the way the league is going. I know I have to add more stuff, and I'm excited for that process this summer to continue to work on my game and get better.
You're talking all the way out to 3, right?
Yeah, I can make it 3. Yeah.
What would you have like a percent in mind that you'd want to shoot if you were ever even?
When I look around the league for big, if I can shoot 35 to 36%, I think that's serviceable for all the other stuff I bring to the court. So it's probably about to go right there.
I remember when you guys won the championship in Boston, you were kind of almost thanking Steve for sticking with you through the ups and downs throughout your career. What's your guys' communication like this season through the ups and downs as well?
We always got an open line of communication with Steve. He always pretty honest, and he's letting me know what he's thinking, what he's going to do, the next step, the process of why he's doing different lineups, why he's doing this. So he always upfront, and that's why it makes my job a lot easier to handle and to move forward and continue to do my job at the level I want to. So yeah, he's always pretty open, and he's still open. Yeah.
You said 35, 36?
Yeah.
Looks like Draymond was at 39.5. You okay with Draymond shooting better?
I mean, he's a power forward. I'm a center, so he should beat me at something.
Let me start by saying, I actually want to thank you guys for the year, for covering the team and the whole thing. It's a long year for everybody, a lot of ups and downs, and you guys deal with a lot as we do. So thank you guys for a season that unfortunately for us, we feel like ended too soon. Disappointed in our year, even though we finished with more wins than last year. I thought overall we came up way short in terms of what we thought talent-wise, experience-wise, all those things that, an ownership group, front office, coaches, players all signed off on the roster to start the season. And, we just got ourselves too far behind the eight ball, frankly, as the season went along, and chased it down at the end, and it's just too little too late in a tough Western Conference. So a lot to figure out, a lot to improve on, but, disappointed to be here today, frankly.
So Steph and Draymond and Steve have been, vocal about wanting to bring Klay back, wanting to keep that core together. How possible is it for you to build a championship team around them if they do stay intact?
Well, considering they've won 4 before, I would say it's well within the realm of reasonability. But we gotta, certainly we want Klay back first and foremost. I expressed that to him yesterday. I think our players have expressed that, our coaches, front office, ownership. Look, everybody wants Klay back. He's still a really good player, and I think we have enough good players in our system. We have enough assets to acquire good players, and we have the ability to keep getting better. So given that, as long as those guys are still really good, I think we can contend and compete, but we just unequivocally have to improve.
How much will financials come into play this summer, and how reasonable is it to improve the roster, make the moves you want? Well, I mean, I guess do you guys want to duck the luxury tax entirely?
The financials will always come into it. It's part of the puzzle. I wouldn't say we're at a point now where we're saying we got to be out of the tax or we got to be under a certain apron or anything like that. We're going to look at everything. I think if you've got a team that you feel can contend for a championship, you do what it takes financially. So we'll look at everything. We'll balance it out, and it's hard to say right now in terms of what it's going to look like and all that, because this is April. This stuff goes into June and July. But you know how Joe is with his willingness to spend and compete. That I don't think there'll be any restrictions, but we'll also be prudent. I mean, to put a team out there that can't make the playoffs, like we spent $400 million this year, I wouldn't recommend that. So we'll figure it out, but I don't think we have anything set in stone in terms of parameters we got to live by.
Do you feel, you mentioned expressing to Klay that you want him back yesterday. Do you feel like that's likely? Do you feel like, reciprocal, or do you think this is going to be potentially a thorny negotiation?
No, I think it's a mutual feeling. The guy's been here a long time. He means so much to the organization. We really, really value him. And so there's nothing that would make me think that he wants to go somewhere else or we don't want him back. And for that reason, I'm hopeful we can make it happen. But, it's a deal. Both sides got to be good with it, and we'll work through that. But I think, hopeful and optimistic I am about it.
Mike, this season was kind of the microcosm of the Draymond Green experience. Can't live with him at times. Can't win without him. What is your feeling of certainty that he's part of this going forward, and how do you navigate that if he's sometimes he's just not available to you.
Yeah, I think in terms of having him back, I think very, very high likelihood. I can't imagine a scenario where he's not back. Could be wrong, but man, he's signed up under contract. We value him. He's a core piece of what we do. So fully expect him to be back. I think we won over 60% of the games he played in this year. So you know how meaningful he is to winning, and he'll continue to do so. As far as the other stuff, part of it I think is managing him, Steph, and Klay as they age. These are long seasons. These guys have been through a lot. So we've got to manage the emotional, the mental, the physical stress and the fatigue these guys take on, and that'll be a part of the process moving forward. But I think Draymond, I think he's in a great place mentally, just evaluating and observing him over the season after the suspension. I think he's learned from it. I think he's better. And we'll continue to work on that stuff and have it on top of mind. But, I think we're in a really good place with him and excited to have him back.
How would you assess this season for Jonathan? And then being that he's extension eligible this summer, how do you see his future here in Golden State?
Yeah, I think really good growth out of JK. Frankly, put a ton of time in this past offseason, came in, had a great preseason, and got off to a little bit of a slow start, but found his way and was, had a stretch there in the middle of the season, was, not only one of the best players on our team, but in the league. And that's where we see the potential with him. And like with him and our other young guys, vitally important that these guys take another step because that's how we're going to balance this thing out with, our more mature legacy players with, a younger core of group that can push us forward and help us win. And like Moses, JK, those guys are extension eligible. Once, we'll get down the road with that, but unequivocally, we value them. We want them here. So we'll see how that goes.
Mike, earlier you said you have the assets to acquire good players, and Joe's never been afraid to take big swings, whether they're from Durant to the reports of the inquiry in LeBron, whatever. I realize you can't talk about specific players, but how realistic, given the position you're in, given your roster, how realistic is it to take a big swing, to add a marquee player? Yeah,
I think the premise of getting better, that's what we got to look at for sure. So that'll be taken into consideration. We also got to be mindful of the player, who it is, the age of the player, the skill set of the player. It's all got to fit to be able to put the chips on the table to make a move. So those are the things we'll kind of look at and evaluate. But there's multiple ways to get better, and that's certainly one of them.
Moses has had a kind of a strange first few years from a rotation standpoint. Every time it looks like he's broken through DNPs. As he enters year 4, as you rebuild the roster this summer, is there a desire to kind of clear the path for him a little bit from a rotation standpoint, or figure out his future, get it more settled than it has been?
Yeah, I think the good and bad of the situation with Moses is first, he's improved, he's gotten a lot better. And on top of it, I think any issues with him playing, frankly, as a result of our depth, which is also a good thing. But at the end, you're right, he hasn't probably played as much as we'd like, and there hasn't been a clear enough path. So that'll be something we'll look at. I think it's really important coming into year 4 for him that there is some reasonable playing time available for him where he can impact our team and be out there and continue to improve. And I think that's a fair thing.
Mike, you've seen 83 games now, knowing what you lack, knowing how the West is stacked up. In hindsight, could you have improved this team at the deadline? Was there something that was out there that might have helped, like looking back on it?
I think knowing what I know now, there's not anything on the table that I would have done or gone through with. I think it was good to see this team out. I think one of the best things about this year, frankly, is there were no catastrophic injuries. There's no, hey, Steph only played 40 games. What would this team be like without him? Thing like that. We know clearly what this team was. It wasn't good enough. And so there's no doubt about that. There's no what ifs. If we had made a move at the deadline, well, maybe that wasn't the right move. What if we had kept this guy or that guy? We answered all those questions. And so now we can move forward with clarity. And but going back on it, no, I feel good about this team. We really put a lot into it before the season started and a lot of thought. I thought it could play multiple ways, pretty versatile defensively, offensively. Did we do those throughout the year? No, but to be able to see that out after the deadline, I thought was important. That's what the feedback I got from the players, the coaching staff, and frankly, we were 27-12, the last half of the season. So I'm good with how, we went after the deadline. Just don't like maybe the earlier part of the season that got us too far behind that we couldn't make up.
Mike, kind of, I guess, following up on that, then moving into this off season, what do you think your biggest roster needs are? What did you guys really lack this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like I said, we got to get better in a lot of areas, but the ones that I think immediately jump off the page is, defensively, we got to be better. This is an organization, a team that when we've been really good and won championships, it's been mostly with defense, and then you got some great, exciting offensive moments that everybody thinks about, but it's really the defense that's been the core of the thing. So, improving defensively within, getting better defensive players, and then from there, I think as Steph and Draymond and Klay, those guys, kind of age, shooting's important. Shooting's important in this league. It's important to have guys that can shoot around them. So I think addressing that will always be a thing. But I think there's and then honestly size, and not necessarily at the center position, but positional size across the board, which has been a strong point of the teams here. Whether it's shooting guards, wings, small forwards, whatever it is, always had good size and length. So like to always keep that in mind and address that. But those are probably the biggest areas that I'm thinking about right now.
And you mentioned shooting. How much this season there wasn't like a consistent secondary scorer that you could consistently rely on? Do you think that was an issue kind of throughout the year?
Yeah, sure. I think so. I think a lot fell on Steph's shoulders. I think he would probably tell you that, and you could notice it in the wear it took on him. In fact, really with some of his decision-making at times too, and it's just a lot for him to burden. And we've got to find a way to help him out in that. And frankly, I think we've got some talent on the roster that can do that, and maybe we got to just be a little bit better about bringing that out. And so maybe there's some improvements from externally, but I think we have some ways internally to do that.
Mike, after 1 year in this job, what's something you wish you knew last year that you'll take into next year?
Oh, boy. Great question. I think with this thing, as the season goes along, you put together the best roster you can, you try and manage it, you go through it, and then you just find yourself just sitting there observing, feeling like a fan. And there's at times where just not much you can do, good or bad. But honestly, I've been worked here for a few years, and it's not like a surprise. I don't think there's anything that surprised me. Where there's some things that were completely off the radar that happened between maybe Draymond's suspension or what happened with Decky, those types of things. Yeah, hopefully those things don't ever happen again. But they were learning moments and situations that we probably that I wasn't expecting.
Mike, what kind of presence in your mind is the managing of these extra years, maybe the end years of a dynasty? How much are you thinking, okay, let's just maintain these guys, and as Draymond said, do right by them for what they've done? And how much is it, at some point you're going to need a roster that is past those guys, maybe, not for a while, but how much of a weight is that? How much of a responsibility is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a responsibility just because this team and organization means so much to the Bay Area. So you can feel, what it means to the fans and even the people within the organization, the players. But it's kind of a cool opportunity. Normally you're trying to build a team from the start up and there's an ascension and all this. This is a little bit different. And so, I relish the challenge. And by the way, those guys aging out, it's Steph Curry, it's Draymond Green, it's Klay Thompson. Those guys are great guys to go out with, and so and they're still good at basketball. So I think it's a manageable thing. Is it challenging? Yes, but I relish it because it's unique, and I think it's somewhat doable. So we'll see what happens.
Mike, you touched on Decky, and that was actually on my mind too. Just how Steve and your coaching staff and support staff navigated that, the unthinkable for everybody. And Steve also tried so many different rotations this season and starting lineups and got Trayce such good experience. I mean, how did he navigate that with support from everybody else too?
Yeah, I mean, Steve's masterful of that stuff. the Decky thing was new for everybody, so I can't say he was quite very experienced with that, but he handled it masterfully. It's a lot. An NBA season is a lot to navigate, and I think coming into it, the biggest thing our group wanted to push and focus on was our connectivity. And frankly, I thought we were great in that area. That showed up with the stuff with Decky, the stuff with Draymond, some just unthinkable losses that we had on the court with, blowing big leads or, having games in hand that we gave up. This group never wavered. They stuck together. I just thought in the end we came up short, like from a basketball standpoint. Too many mistakes, just not enough discipline, the small things, getting back on defense, not turn the ball over, not fouling. Those things did us in, and, we're sitting here today with the season ended because of it.
Steve said something the other night that kind of stuck out. He said that he needs to be better. Specifically, he's talking about the offense, getting the offense into more rhythm and more flow. How do you think he was over the course of this season? Obviously, off the court stuff was one thing, but on the court, how do you think that went?
Yeah, I think it went well. I mean, I think hopefully that shows in the contract extension we gave him. And I think if there's anything I look back on and think about and question is I think we built this team with a lot of depth in mind because some of our players on the roster are older. We've had some injuries. So you want to be able to survive those types of things. And frankly, we had great health this year. And because of it, it kind of created a logjam with minutes and rotations. And maybe that made it difficult on Steve and the coaching staff at times. I had to look back at it, evaluate it. Not sure that the answer is to go the other way and have more of a pecking order and less depth because if you get hurt, you're in trouble. But, I thought overall Steve had another really good year. But I think we've almost in some ways, not to take away from the basketball part, but we value him and the way he can manage a team throughout the season and hold a team together. I mean, man, we had some tough stuff go on. And this, like I said, this group never wavered.
When you talk about what you just said, this team never wavered. They were healthy all season long, and you mentioned size is needed. And you said not necessarily at the center position. When you're going up against guys like Sabonis, AD, Jokic in the Western Conference, is size not a remedy? Size inside at the center position not a remedy for the troubles defensively that you kind of mentioned there? And I have a follow-up after.
Yeah, I mean, look, that helps if you have the type of size that can combat those specific players who are like all-NBA, Hall of Fame players. To me, the worst thing you can do is try and just bring in a tall guy and say, hey, go guard Jokic, and that's not the answer. So we try and beat it with speed, with quickness, with smarts, those types of things, and it's been pretty successful here. But overall, if we can find somebody that's 7'3" and highly skilled and can play both ends of the floor, sign me up. But those guys aren't really growing on trees.
That is true. The follow-up being that the league is getting younger. Yeah. And obviously guys like JK really helped you guys to speed up the game. Is there any emphasis on getting some more athleticism, younger, quicker guys to help to build around, of course, Steph?
Yeah, for sure. I think in this modern NBA, the game is played so fast, and we got to be able to play that way. We struggled this year in transition both ways. Defensively, couldn't get back. Which is a speed, athleticism, effort thing. And then going the other way, we didn't create a lot of turnovers, and we were unable to get out in transition and use our athleticism with Wiggs and JK, GP, those guys. So we got to solve that. We got to be better both ways in transition, and we'll look to do that. Like I said before, not only free agency and draft and trades, but can our guys that we have now be better at that? And I think it's doable.
Just overall, assessing the landscape of the West, how close do you feel like you guys are to closing that gap with some of the top teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still got really good players. We've got good young players. For me, we're closer to the top than we are the bottom, even though we finished 10th in the standings. That's kind of the way I see it. But, that can change. Next year will be tough. The teams that didn't make the playoffs this year, you're looking at the outside end with Houston, Memphis, San Antonio. I don't see a way for those teams to get worse. They're only going to get better. So this is a tough conference, and this is why we got to improve. We got to get a lot better too.
Mike, Kuminga and Moses obviously made significant steps of progress this year, but you also got big contributions from Brandin and Trayce. Overall, how encouraged are you by that young core that you have on the roster?
Yeah, I think we're excited about it. To have 4 young players that we think can really play. A little of it now is finding how it all works together and getting them the appropriate time and making sure that they can properly impact winning. But I feel a lot better about that group and just our overall direction of the team sitting here today than I did a year ago. And a lot of that's frankly because of the, having Brandin and Trayce, a couple more players that make sense.
When you talk about developing a better roster and being better than this year, what does that necessarily entail? Do you start looking at the playoffs now? Do you go back and look at games that you feel like other teams, competed better? When you talk about the center, obviously Kevon lost minutes and lost kind of like his motivation there a little bit. And when you're looking at new talent and you're talking to Joe, at what point are you like, this is kind of most important, let's work this first and then get to everything else later?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going through now, kind of post-mortem on the season, evaluating everything and really identifying the areas that we have to be better in, and then how can we get better? Is that, working with our current players, or is it something that we need from the outside? And so kind of taking all those things into account and, evaluate and making the decisions, that's the way that we look at it.
How would you assess your ability to make whatever tough decision you have to make coming up here? Is this difficult for you, or do you feel like your decades in the NBA and around NBA life makes it a little bit easier to pull a trigger on something that is probably going to be difficult to do?
Yeah, I think I probably operate off the saying there's never a bad time to make a good decision. So doesn't mean it's not tough and you stir over it, but my job is to have the best interest of this franchise and the direction of this franchise, and when I make a decision or we make a decision, so that's what I'm going to do.
Chris has a very flexible contract situation, and you guys have also expressed maybe wanting him back. How do you view his future, and then just how do the financials of it all kind of complicate that?
Yeah, I think overall was really pleased with Chris having him on this team this year. What he gave us in the locker room, on the court, off the court. I think admittedly he probably wished he had a larger role and could help the team a little bit more. But I think moving forward, because of his production and the guy can still do it and what he means to winning and all that stuff, we certainly have interest in bringing him back. But the puzzle stuff we got to look at and figure out and see. And there's definitely a viable path to do that, but we're not really down the road yet of specifically what we can and can't do.
Mike, you referenced being closer to the top than the bottom of the West. And certainly that makes sense when you look at the second half, 27-12. It doesn't make sense when you look at the other night.
Right.
As Steve said, you guys are kind of overwhelmed physically. Was that sort of jarring to see the way, not just that you lost, but the way you lost? And how does that sort of color your view going into the offseason?
Yeah, honestly, not a lot. I don't take that game into consideration too much. That was the worst game we played all year. Give credit to Sacramento. They did a great job. But, I watched this team for 82 games. The amount of times that we've been ran off the court, very few. I think there were a couple of home games in January. Obviously the Boston game where that was a different scenario. But, that was a game last night where I think or the other night where you got to be careful of overreacting to how it went. I don't think that represented our team on the whole for the season. But that being said, it kind of put the stamp on what the reality of this year was. So here we are, and I would say going into that game, whether win or lose, no matter how it happened, I knew we had to get better.
Steve said earlier this season actually that they needed to really kind of get the best out of the athletic guys like Wiggins and J.K. and Gary. And obviously, Wiggins missed a few games and J.K. came along. Gary missed a bunch of games here and there. How do you look at especially Gary and Wiggins and what they can give you going forward given the situation that they're in?
Yeah, I think those are the type of players you need on both ends. They can defend. They can do stuff offensively. They can finish at the rim. They have the athleticism. So we need those types of guys, and we need to bring the most out of their talent. That's really important. And I thought there were times this year where, they struggled individually. And And then I think of it as like a two-way street where we got to be better at helping them. And I think those are guys that if we talk about helping Steph and taking the load off him, those are guys moving forward that can do that offensively, and we got to find ways to do that.
We didn't get to talk to Steph yesterday, but what was your message to him in the end of season exit interview, and what did he want to get across to you?
I don't think there was any two-way messaging. It was just a discussion, dialogue of how the season went, what we need to do to get better, where he's at, hearing from him after 83 games and being 36 years old, where he's at. And I think he's in a really good place, and I think he's a player we'll continue to lean on, both with his leadership and his play. And, man, that guy's as resilient as they come. My biggest thing was I'm disappointed for Draymond, our veteran guys as well as our younger guys, that you won't be able to play in the postseason. Like, that's what everybody wants to see, not only here in the Bay Area, but frankly around the world, to see those guys compete at the highest level. So for them not to be able to do that is really disappointing. I feel for them, but it is what it is. It's our own undoing, and we got to live with it.
And then in terms of, you mentioned some internal options of, possibly taking some burden off of him. How much of that needs to come with a scheme change rather than players developing?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Maybe a little bit more pointed to Steve, but I think that's something that he'll look at and be open to. I thought we did some stuff this year that changed differently from what we have done in the past to help those guys, and I think we can do more of it. But yeah, I think that's something we'll look at, and I think everything's on the table in terms of how we play, how we want to do things. When you have a couple of years, we've missed the playoffs 3 of the last 5 years, so it's fair to evaluate and make changes to things.
Actually, as a follow-up to kind of what you just said there, to just summarize the emotion in the front office right now, giving what you said about the consideration of the last game and how they lost, what you've said about having the pieces here, is there an overarching emotion that something has to change in this offseason for next season, or something drastic, or no?
Yeah, I think the overarching emotion right now is disappointment. We're still sort of, settling in on what happened. But on the whole, we knew this season, no matter how long it went along, was going to end at some point, probably disappointing us. And so not a shocking surprise. But I think as far as, again, what we need to do it's pretty straightforward. It's to get better. And I think that presents a really good challenge for everybody, whether it's the players, the front office, the coaches, the performance staff, like everybody rowing in the same direction and figuring it out.
Yeah, I just wanted to get kind of more clarity on the financial aspect of the equation, because, wanting to get better, but also at this point, it sounded like you guys need to trim salary. How do you decide, well, this is worth paying this amount because we're going to be a playoff team, whereas like you just paid $400 million not for a playoff team? Like I guess take me through the mindset with the money right now and how needed it is to trim regardless of the moves available.
Yeah, I think the way we'll look at it is seeing what we can do, what's out there, seeing what we project of the guys we have on our roster, how they can improve, talking through it with Steve and what he's looking to do to change things, and really getting a hard look at like, okay, this is where we can be, and then to go to Joe with my recommendation of what the appropriate spend is on all that. That's what it's going to come down to, and frankly, that's probably not going to happen next week or next month. It's like a lot of this stuff leads up to the draft and right up to the bell of free agency, so there may not be a lot of conclusions and solutions in the short term, but that's what we'll lead up to.
To end, but here we are. Before we start, I just want to say thanks to all you guys for, doing a great job covering us. And I know that, your jobs aren't easy, and I appreciate the relationships that a lot of us have, I've gotten to know a lot of you really well over the years. And it's, I don't know, not every coach actually enjoys these. I enjoy these. I enjoy seeing you guys, but I appreciate all the work you put in. I mean, I never forget what our business is about, which is connecting our team to our fans, and telling our players stories. And you guys are the ones who do that. And, you also have difficult jobs because you have to criticize us and criticize players, and it puts you in an awkward position at times. And so I just want to tell you, I appreciate the difficulty of your job, and you guys do a really good job of covering our team and telling our stories and connecting our fans, and all of that is really important. So thank you. Now you can grill me about not making the playoffs. So
It's like, is that a disarm tactic? That's what I was like.
that's exactly what that was, Marcus. Can I take you to lunch later, by the way? Anything I can get for you before we start?
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
So, Steve, it's very obvious you guys believe that you got some tough decisions to make. There's some roster changes. You've been working with Mike Dunleavy for years, but in this capacity, what do you think about like his ability to get in there and do the things you'll have to do?
I've just been so impressed with Mike this year. When he got the job, I was 100% comfortable because I had gotten to know him and I knew Bob had mentored him, and I thought to myself, Mike's going to be good at this. But when you actually see him in action, for me, what that means is when we're blowing games early in the year, and he's coming to me and supporting me and saying, "Hey, I get it. This stuff is hard, and you can't control everything, and you're doing a great job." And like you don't know how meaningful that is to a coach until you actually sit in this seat. And I think that was one of the things I learned as a general manager was I didn't do that well enough, frankly, when I was in Phoenix. I didn't understand how hard everybody's job is in this business. And I think Mike's awareness, emotional intelligence, just having been around the game his whole life, seeing his dad in the both jobs, coaching and GM, understanding the emotional swings of being in this business, it's just set him up perfectly to be a leader and to help guide people through adversity. And that's what we're facing right now. Obviously, we didn't make the playoffs. We're all disappointed. Mike's the perfect guy, to help lead everybody through the difficult time, but not only emotionally and with people skills, but also with his basketball experience and knowledge. He and I have had great discussions this year about our team. I had a great discussion with Mike yesterday, and he said, look, we have all the evidence we need and all the clarity we need with our team to make really good decisions. And I thought that was so well said. So I have, in a nutshell, I have the utmost confidence in Mike's ability to do what you just asked.
Steve, on Tuesday night after the game, you had a moment of self-reflection, and you said you need to be better, especially with the offense, getting what you want out of the offense. What did you mean by that?
I think the offense can help the defense. The game has always been connected. And I think, we've had a unique style for 10 years here that's mainly based on the off-ball movement of Steph and Klay, the unique nature of Draymond's being a point center, for lack of a better expression. We have unique players, so we've played a unique style. Some of it planned, some of it simply morphing into a way that we've done things, a way that we've played. We've been turnover prone for a long time, partly because we freelance quite a bit. I feel like the last couple of years, our team hasn't been built to withstand some of the mistakes and the turnovers, but also it hasn't been built in a way to support some of that freelancing. So I have to take it on myself to help the players be put in better positions to make better decisions, if that makes sense. One of my most important experiences in basketball was playing in the triangle offense in Chicago. I learned so much basketball from Tex Winter and Phil Jackson, And, you know, what Phil used to tell us was we don't run the triangle for Michael and Scotty. We run it for the rest of you guys. You know, we can run anything for those guys, and they'll be fine. But we run it for the rest of you guys to help you make decisions, to help simplify the game. And I'm not going to run the triangle, so don't, you know, put that in a headline. But I need, but I need to create a simpler format. We're still going to do a lot of the things that we've done. We can't go away from what has helped make us successful. But I think I need to teach it better. I need to simplify some things. I need to give our guys maybe a little better template for how we're going to accomplish it. Because, like I said, when you connect the game and you can make better decisions offensively, it translates to the defensive end, and you become a better team. So I've got to do a better job of that.
Moses has had a pretty strange few, seasons. I know you're not sitting here wanting to guarantee a rotation spot on April 18th or anything, but like, how much clarity do you guys need with him on playing time next season, or just, what has held him back also?
I think there's a crowded field of people in Moses's realm, where he is on our roster. There's a lot of other guys, and he's a really good player, and he's a young player who still has a lot of room for growth. Decision making at both ends needs to improve. Quicker decisions, quicker rotations defensively, recognition of patterns. I've told him directly, I want him to get his shot off quicker. I think he should be an excellent three-point shooter. There are times where he's open, he doesn't shoot it, he drives it, and we immediately lose, the advantage. And so these are all things that we're trying to help him with. And he's in his third year. He hasn't played a ton, and so you need reps to improve on this stuff. So. Yeah, I think next year is a big year for Moses. I would love to get him out there more. But when you look at the roster, there's just a lot of people, and we haven't always been able to get him on the floor. We always look at combinations. I think that's the key thing to remember. Anytime you think, well, so-and-so needs to play more, if you're making that observation, you have to recognize that we make our decisions on combination. The game's about 5 players fitting together. And frankly, there are some combinations that have not fit together, and that limits our ability to play certain guys. And so those are all factors in Moses' development and his prospects going forward. I will say it again, he's one of the most high-character young players I've ever been around. The way he handles adversity, he's just very practical. He's been raised so well. He's a wonderful young guy, and I'm always pulling for him, and I want him to succeed. And but frankly, he needs more opportunity for sure.
Steve, I think maybe it was during media day or somewhere during training camp, you said that you felt last season was the exception, and that championship year in 22 was the rule of who you guys are. And Mike was in here and said we missed the playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years. So I was just kind of wondering if you kind of still look at the exception versus the rule of just kind of where the state of you guys are.
I think you always have to be present, understand the circumstances, where you are, where your team is, where each individual is. We're different now. You could feel the difference, I think, this year. And I think we are clearly, after not making the playoffs this year, we're clearly in a different space. I still think we're good. I think our troubles early in the season cost us at the end. If we were down 1-0 in a playoff series right now after that performance the other night, I'd be 100% confident that we could win the series. But we put ourselves in a position to lose in an elimination game, and we lost. So we have to examine, well, why did we put ourselves in that situation? What did we do early in the season that cost us, and where can we get better? So we won 46 games in a loaded conference. That's usually enough. It's not enough. So we have to think about where we are in relation to the rest of the conference. It's way harder now than it was 9 years ago to succeed in this conference. So this summer will be there's a lot of self-reflection. We have to figure out what are we going to do roster-wise. Mike and Joe obviously will be in charge of that, and I'll offer my input, and I've got to do, my staff and I have to do the job in terms of making the adjustments to help us where we are right now and understand what that means.
When you talk about improving for next year, as Dunleavy was saying earlier, they always say defense wins games. And where do you think you fared in terms of, the Warriors' defense this last stretch? I know yesterday Brandin said he was pretty proud he was leading, all rebounds. But how do you get the others motivated in clutch games?
Yeah, our defense was really good the second half of the season. It was not good the first half. So we are looking at reasons for that. Clearly, getting Draymond back in a good place, is going to make your defense better immediately. I thought the other night was telling in that Sacramento pressured us everywhere. I thought the play of Mitchell, Ellis, and Fox pressuring the ball was a key to that win for them. Can we pressure the ball better? We missed Gary in that regard for sure. Do we need more personnel who can pressure the ball? Is it something we can do scheme-wise? Can we be more aggressive? Should we blitz more? Should we double team more? Should we trap more? Those are all things that we're going to be examining. Watching the tape, thinking about our personnel. Now that we have Trayce back there as a shot blocker, do we extend our defense out a little further? And these are all things that you have to try to figure out and come up with the best plan for going forward, and that's what we'll be doing.
Steve, you talked about sort of where you stand in relation to the rest of the West. And you've said, I think, last week that you feel like this team was better than last year's team. And you made some logical tweaks, right? Adding Chris, the rookies. Does it feel like, given that you finished 10th, given the way you lost the other night, does it feel like a bold major change is needed or realistic? Given where you stand and given who might be available, do you see maybe something more significant than just dabbling at the edges?
It's just impossible to know exactly what that means. You always have to look at what are your options. The fact that we won 46 games means something. That's not insignificant. And by any account, in this league, if you win 50, you've had a good year, right? Well, we should have won 50, right? I can count right now. I can tell you 3 or 4 games that we should have won, and that I take some blame for. We all take some blame for. So we can't get too out of sorts and say, "Oh my God, this is a disaster." We got to revamp everything. But we also have to be honest. Why did we blow those games? What was keeping us from winning a lot of those close games? For me, my own accountability, that's where I get back to simplifying the offense, teaching it better, making sure I can put our players in a better position to make those decisions that matter at the end of the games. But we also have to look at everything, our schemes, our substitution patterns, and our personnel. Is there a move out there that we can make to make some improvement? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but we don't know. We just know that everybody has to look inward and improve.
Having gone through another year with Jonathan, just how would you assess his growth this season, and then what are the next steps for him in order to be more and more of a featured part of the offense?
I think J.K. had a really good year, a breakthrough year for sure. I think he got more and more confident, with his play. I think one thing that was interesting for us is that when we made the shift in the starting lineup midseason and had Draymond at the 5 and Wiggs and J.K. at the 4, or the 3 and the 4 combined, it was very helpful for J.K. to get the ball with more space, get downhill. I think it unlocked some of the things he can do. Then he got hurt, and our defense was at its best with Trayce and Draymond. That meant it was more difficult to play J.K. at the 3 because you don't have the spacing, and he's not a natural 3 at this point, decision-making, ball handling. So we, in the Sacramento game the other night, we went to both lineups. At the first sub, we went to that smaller lineup with J.K., Wiggs, Draymond. So we were looking at both. What I think what J.K. is looking at is how can he make himself more versatile to be available in different lineups? Can he be a 3? It's a big question, and I don't know the answer to it. But I know that as we continue to help him and he continues to learn how to create spacing and get a shot off a little quicker and be more comfortable catch and shooting, but also making the right reads, because as a 3, you handle the ball more. Can he become a better passer? I think he sees the floor pretty well, but his fundamentals in terms of passing have to improve if he's going to play the 3. And we need him to play the 3 if we want to have, Trayce out there at the 5 and Draymond. I mean, that ideally would be a great defensive lineup athletically and length. But we're not ready for that yet, as a team. And so those are the areas that would really be helpful for J.K. And, we're going to work with them on that stuff all summer.
Steve, this was another kind of microcosm Draymond Green experience season. You didn't have him because of things he did, and then you struggled without him. You can't live with him, can't win without him. You even called something he did recently unforgivable.
And yet I forgave him.
and yet you forgave him. Are you confident that he's going to be a changed person navigating going forward? Do you think you could not have him for several games again? Is that just part of the deal?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I have so much faith in Draymond because I know him so well as a human being. He's flawed. We're all flawed, but he would be the first to tell you he's probably more flawed than the rest of us, right? He's the one who's had these transgressions, not the other guys. It's been him, and he would be the first to tell you that. But he's one of the most loyal people I've ever met. He's one of the most competitive. He's one of the smartest players I've ever been around. And yet he makes these decisions that hurt the team, that aren't smart. So how do you reconcile all that? It's really difficult. The number one thing I would say is if we decided he wasn't worth it, then we would have moved off of him years ago. But he's worth it, and he's worth it not only because of the banners that are hanging out there, but because he really is a wonderful human being. He is somebody who I love deeply, who I care for, and in some ways I love him because of his flaws, because he's so human. What happened over the last year was it went from maybe him yelling at me and us getting into a tiff, or him getting ejected, or him running up his technicals or getting a flagrant foul, to wait a second, it turned violent. He punched Jordan. He grabbed Rudy Gobert by the neck. He flailed at Nurk. Like that stuff. That is just by basic laws of society, basic norms. Like, you can't do that, right? So at that point, when the league suspended him, it was the best thing to happen to Draymond. His career was on the line, and it is on the line every day. So, as someone who loves Draymond and values him so much, I am going to continue to help him any way that I can to live his best life, to be the best version of himself, which he really was for the last 2 months. And I'll be really honest, like, during the suspension, I was sitting there like, can he actually get a few sessions of therapy and change? I don't think that's possible. But whatever he did over the last 3 months, he was the best version of himself, not just on the court, in the locker room, leading the young guys. His teammates would all tell you how great he was. He had the ejection in Orlando, which became a national story. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I understand him so well. I didn't mind the ejection. I mean, yeah, it was bad timing, but if you want to embrace the fact that Draymond is this insane competitor who is just going to play with so much emotion and passion, which makes our team so much better, then you kind of have to accept, all right, he's going to get kicked out a few games a year. That's my approach. The other stuff can't happen. The physical acts, that will cost him his career, not only in the NBA, but beyond the next career. And he knows that. And so that's, Draymond's complex. His relationship with our franchise is complex. But at the core of it is a deep loyalty and passion and love. And we share that with him. And that's really tricky to reconcile. So you almost don't even try to reconcile it. You help him through it, and you make sure he's the best version of himself, and you keep pushing. And then you say something's unforgivable, and then you forgive him for it. I mean, let's be honest. But I think he did cross a line with the stuff that happened early in the season, and he knows it. And his, the rest of his career, he knows the league won't allow him to cross it. We won't let him allow him to cross that line again, because that was different. I think that's my my main point. He can yell at me all he wants. He can get ejected. He can get technicals, but that's where it has to stop. And the last 3 months, he was his best self.
Not my original question, but to follow up on what you just said, do you believe after the last 3 months that carries on into the next season, that he understands everything you just said?
I do. Okay. We've had those discussions, and I've watched him.
When we talk about Steph and how he's played, a little bit changing gears here about Steph, how many games he played this season, and you mentioned how teams play him and the fatigue that causes. What do you think about playing 70-plus games when you're Steph Curry at this point in your career?
It's a great question. I think there's no doubt, and at the end of the year, he wasn't as efficient as he had been earlier. Is that a result of playing too many games? Is it just natural? As you age, those are all good questions. I know that he keeps himself in impeccable shape, both mentally and physically, spiritually, and I know he'll do that all of next year and the year after. And so we just have to help all of our players through every season, whatever that means. It's a credit to him that he played as many games as he did. Same with Klay. Maybe we need to give him a few more games off. I don't know, but we have to examine that for sure.
Steve, as this progresses, obviously with Steph, Draymond, and Klay, knowing that they've all been effective, knowing though at some point that is going to be different in different ways for each of them. Do you and Mike and Joe, or you, Lisa, discuss Like, how much of this is what's good for the team, and how much of this is service to the memories of the dynasty? At least just have that in your mind. Like, okay, we're going to do something, but maybe it's because of what happened for these 4 championships. That's okay. But also, other things have to be decided that aren't part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a really hard dilemma if they weren't still good players. You know, that's where it's like, is this just a legacy thing? Or are we just, keeping them around because of what they built? I don't think that's the case at all. Now, clearly they're not going to be as productive and as durable as they were 5-6 years ago. But we have to figure out what that means. I thought Klay really showed that he was agreeable to the 6-man role, the second half of the year, even though we eventually put him back in the starting lineup. I think that's got to be an option going forward. I would prefer not to play him 35 minutes. There were games down the stretch, I think the New Orleans game, I think I played him 38 minutes. We've got to be able to play him less, but in order to do that, we've got to add more shooting to the roster, frankly. If we can add more shooting and limit Klay's minutes, I think he'll be much more effective in a season-long manner. But those are, the discussion of those 3 to me, is a much easier discussion when they're still good, which they are. They all showed that this year. So maybe in a couple of years we'll be having this discussion where, they're not as effective and maybe it becomes more of a ceremonial thing. I do think there's tremendous value in the 3 of them being Warriors for life. It matters that Kobe was a Laker for life. That's meaningful to the Laker franchise. I think it would be incredible if these 3 guys could play their whole careers here. That's meaningful, matters to our fans, it matters to our franchise. So I hope it happens. But fortunately right now they're all still good.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, you kind of answered it there, but in your mind, like as a NBA historian, what do you view as a good ending to a dynasty? And is there such a thing as that?
Yeah, I mean, it rarely is it storybook, I mean, even the 96 or 98 Bulls, team was broken up and we won the championship in our last year, but there was a documentary about what a disaster the whole thing was. You guys might want to watch it, yeah. It's impossible for this stuff to end perfectly. I do think there is a lot of value, as I just said to Tim, in our 3 guys being Warriors for life. I think there's a lot of value in, ending with dignity, where there's I'm really proud of the guys this year, even though we didn't make the playoffs. I loved the effort. I loved the chemistry, people can be disappointed. We're all disappointed, but I loved the turn in Klay and Draymond seasons. So for those 3, I really want to see all of them, finish their careers here, but also finish out their careers with a sense of pride and dignity in what they're doing and the way they're going about their business.
And then just another follow-up on that last answer with Klay, and maybe moving him to a 6-man role. Do you view that option of someone with more shooting to supplant him in the starting lineup? Do you view that as someone already on the roster, or maybe not?
It could very well be somebody on the roster. I think our young guys are going to continue to get better. For a while, we started Brandin instead of Klay. So that's a possibility, Maybe Moses, moves into the starting lineup. Maybe J.K. shows that he can play the 3 next to Draymond and Trayce. It could be any one of those guys, or maybe it's a trade. This is the NBA. We all know what happens in this league. There's a lot that can happen still, and we don't know. But it's our job to get the players that we have prepared for next season, which we're committed to, and then it's Mike's job to put the best roster together.
My question is sort of connected to that, I guess. I wanted to ask you about the rookies, Brandin and Trayce, and how you reflect on their impact. I mean, they obviously had significant impact. And to your point about Klay and shooting, how much is it realistic for Brandin to, because that, as well as he played this year, his outside shooting he didn't, sometimes you guys had to encourage him to shoot. He didn't really make the impact there. He didn't spread the floor the way maybe you would like ideally. Can he, how realistic is it that he fills that?
Oh, I think it's very realistic. I think shooting is actually probably the easiest thing to improve, especially when you already have good touch. I mean, he shot 38% this year, but he wasn't necessarily a shoot first guy. It was sort of an afterthought. I mean, he wants to make a play first. He's a different player from Austin Reeves, but I see similarities in having coached Austin this past year in the World Cup. They're similar sized. They're both a lot stronger and quicker than they look on the floor. Some of it is because their game speed is really high. They may not time well in the 40, but their game speed, because of their reaction or their proactivity on the floor. Both guys, there's a lot to their games. Austin, I think, shot 32% from three his first year, and then shot up to around 40. I think most players in their second or third year who are already pretty good shooters make pretty big strides because the game does slow down. I think one of the things that we'll work with Brandin, I've already talked to him about it, is becoming more catch and shoot oriented. If you're open from three, let it go. It's an area of the league where everyone's gotten smarter, shot selection, and open threes are hard to come by. If you get one, you don't want to pass them up. And I think our young guys, it's something that they really have to adapt to.
You mentioned, Draymond being next to Trayce a couple times now. How sure are you that Draymond needs a center next to him in the starting lineup? And are you of the belief that is Trayce, that Trayce is now kind of like the starting center on this team?
I'm not ready to go that far. I just think we found something late in the year that we felt could translate, and so we stayed with it. But obviously went away from it early in that Sacramento game, and because it wasn't working. So there's still a lot to examine. We don't even know what our roster is going to look like yet. So I won't commit to anything at this point. But I do have a lot of faith in Trayce. I think he can get a lot better. I think the guy he played against in Sacramento, Sabonis, is somebody he should emulate. Just the aggressiveness, the ability to score around the basket, the left-handed, the DHO game, the ability to handle the ball. Trayce has a lot of those attributes, and so I'm excited about his potential and what he can become. But too early to decide, who's going to start and whether that combination will be the one we go to.
How about the Draymond 4-5 aspect?
Yeah, I like that. But we need shooting and playmaking around those guys for sure.
Steve, Mike was in here earlier and he said that it would be good to have more size, not necessarily a big man, but just as he said, across the board, have more size. You guys leaned on the small lineups a lot this year. Does this mean that if the roster changes over the summer that you could come back and be a little longer?
I mean, I think everybody wants to draft 6-8 guys who can guard 5 positions, and they just don't grow on trees. So if there's players available that can help us, roster wise, get bigger, that'd be great. It may be that it happens internally too. We've got guys who we like who can play more, and if they continue to improve. So it's always a great aspiration. It's a good thing to have a team with size at every position, but it's another thing to put the roster on the floor.
How quickly do you pivot towards this summer with Team USA and then just the opportunity to coach Steph on the national level? What does that mean for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking about some of that stuff. You know, that's a really unique experience. It's a 6-week jaunt. You know, it happens quickly, and so you're generally not going to do a lot of complex stuff. And so I kind of know, you know, what we're going to run and how we're going to operate. But you know, there's the work is more probably in planning practices and planning drills and putting together thoughts on the difference in the rules and but all of that stuff comes with experience that I've had in FIBA, and you know, I've already got a lot of that stuff thought out, and it's more about planning practices and logistical stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought Marcus was next. Okay. Steve, what did you appreciate most about Chris Paul's presence with everything this team went through, heartbreak and just having that veteran presence with so many young guys and unthinkable loss?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, with Chris, like everything. He's one of the most professional guys I've ever been around. The sacrifice that he made to come off the bench, the sacrifice to, for the first time in his career, not only come off the bench, but at times play 18 minutes like the other night. For a Hall of Fame guy to do that and not complain, but actually do the opposite and, you know, be encouraging to the rest of the guys on the bench and to the coaches, and to collaborate and go through the entire season. And, you know, he was incredible. And I feel lucky to have coached him, and I hope I get to coach him again next year. But, you know, we'll see how it all plays out.
A couple questions for you. Is clearly the league, you know, is, I guess, better because, you know, 46 wins get you a 10 seed. But what really jumped out to you that is different about other teams? Like what was the thing that coming in you probably didn't know, and after 83 games you're like, okay, that's different. We've got to adjust to that.
Well, I think over my 10 years here, what's changed is I think the coaching is really good all around the league. Every team we play, I feel like, is really well prepared. I think scouting has something to do with that. I think years and years of analytics and analytic study combined with style of play has led to really efficient offense across the league. And teams have been put together really well. It felt like, I mean, you remember my first year, the playoff run, we decided to put Bogut on Tony Allen and shift things around, and that it's so much harder to do like gimmicky stuff anymore because everybody's putting together these teams where everybody can shoot and everybody's playing fast. You know, we led the league in pace that year, and I'm pretty sure if you took that pace from 14-15, it would be 30th in the league now. I think that's true. A good PR guy would have that handy.
You don't have one.
Next week, after you get back from your Brett's outside. It's crazy though, like how much everybody has changed in the style. I do think our guys have had some influence on that too, like Steph and Klay shooting. You know, the volume of threes and the range of threes. I mean, even I thought it was crazy, and I was their coach, you know, 10 years ago. And now you realize, like, I know when I was growing up, it's like the coach would say, like, don't take that. If you took an early three, don't take that shot. You can always get that shot. It's the opposite. You can't get that shot later on in the NBA. Maybe that's true in high school. But these days, if you don't take the early open three, you're going to get a worse shot. And I think we've all learned that. The whole league has learned that through this process of the last decade of like putting all this information to use and on the floor. And so you got all these teams that are really well constructed, really good coaches, really smart players who are taking better shots. You throw it all in the mix, and it just means the competition is better than it's ever been.
I know you tried to butter us up early, but I have to ask you about three-point defense. It felt like you had a lot of players who regularly and perennially were not near the shooters. Watching that, was that game plan thing? Is that one of the adjustments maybe that needs to be made? Is how you think about protecting the paint first and out? Like, why was it teams seem so available to shoot and make a lot of threes?
I think the egregious ones were usually transition. I will always believe that you got to protect the paint first, and then the three-point line second, and that's not going to change. I think a lot of it was transition. Our transition defense was poor this year, and it's one of the things we're really going to study this year. We purposely went after more offensive rebounds this year because it was our thinking that would not hurt our transition. If it did, we need to rethink that. I'm still not convinced that it was our offensive rebounding pursuit that hurt our transition defense. I think it was more turnovers and poor decision-making when we were retreating, not sprinting. Too many we call them stays. You don't go in for the rebound, you don't sprint back, you just stay. We had 1 million of those this year. So that's on us as coaches to coach transition defense better. And then the other stuff, philosophically, I don't think we need a huge schematic shift, but we've got to do what we do better, and we've got to make sure we're teaching our players, to if we're going to protect the paint, we have to be on point with our rotations, and we've got to do a better job of that.
Two more.
I think on the other end of transition defense, I think you guys ranked near the bottom of the league in fast break points, fast break frequency. Mm-hmm. Is there a need to play a little bit more up-tempo like some of those other teams are? And is that could that be a way to simplify things a little bit more?
Well, it's interesting. Last year we were top 3 in the league in pace and 29th in points per possession in transition. That's a really bad combination, And so I came into this year actually wanting to pull back pace-wise, hoping that it would improve our offense and that it would improve our offensive efficiency. And it didn't really translate. We got a little better in transition, but we've got to find the happy medium. But I really think that transition efficiency is more related to passing than anything. And I think our passing was poor this year. I think our fundamentals were poor. I think our decision-making was poor. I think overall, over the years, we've always played a pretty fast pace, but we've generally had good passing teams. And so one of the individual improvements that we're going to be working on with every guy is just passing. We can't turn the ball over in transition and give up those great opportunities and then be vulnerable at the other end. And that's got to be an area of improvement.
I know the financials and the roster is a kind of a Joe and a Mike question, but you guys are being pretty transparent that you're probably going to have to throttle back some of the spending while also still trying to compete for titles next year. Do you guys almost have to enter somewhat of a transitional phase if you're trying to trim salary yet, I know get better, but how is that done?
It's hard to predict that stuff. I do believe that. Joe is so committed to spending whatever it takes to be great, and it didn't make sense in hindsight this year to spend this much on a team that didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, we thought we would do better, but if there's ever a time to throttle back, it would seem to be now. I think we need to make sure we're making sound decisions financially, but you just don't know what's available, what that means. We just added 2 rotation players in Trayce and Brandin on really small, contract rookie deals. I mean, that's a big help, right? Can we do that again somehow? With a second-round pick, it'd be tough, but we did it with Trayce. You'd have to make a really savvy trade if you're Mike to be able to accomplish, both of those things. So it's not easy, but it is possible to, to go bargain hunting and find guys. We've done it before, but not easy.